Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors with Lance and Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to a special bonus episode of Unsung Horrors. I'm Erica.
I'm Lance.
And this episode, we are going to be recapping all of the movies we watched this year for Junesploitation.
Yes, it's over. We did it.
We did it once again.
Yeah.
Many, many years. So for folks that might still not know what Junesploitation is, I think a lot of our listeners do by now, but we could have some newbies jumping in here. Lance, you want to tell folks what it is?
Sure. Yeah. This is, I don't know how many years after this movie have been doing it. Maybe about 10 years?
At least 10, yeah.
This is my 7th year, which
Nice.
sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I'm saying. But yeah, every year at this movie, at fthismovie.com, I think it is, they select 30 themes for every 30 days in June. Very broad themes, cars, Poliziotteschi, what is it? A lot of free spaces, 90s comedies, all these great categories that you can just select your own films that kind of fit into them. Your interpretation, it's very open. The rules are very broad.
Yeah.
And it's just a good way to watch at least 30 movies in a month if you can. If you can't, just participate when you can. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's just something that we've been doing the last couple of years, and it's a good way to find recommendations. And we always pick new watches every year. I always go through my watch list. I go through physical media that's on my shelf that's been sitting for years at some cases. But yeah, good stuff.
Usually what I'll do is kind of keep like a running private list on Letterboxd when I come across something that seems like it would be a good fit for Junesploitation. I should be better about tackling my physical media shelf.
Yeah, I always am. Like my initial list, it always changes every year. When I have a plan list, I have some backups. Most of them are physical media to start off with, but then I'm like, we go and see the in-laws every June. I mean, there's a lot of things come up.
Yeah.
So I think I only hit 2 or 3 physical medias on the whole month.
Yeah, I think I got 2. I feel bad about that. Next month, I'll do better.
Now you have all these other movies that you could watch whenever you want.
I know. Too many.
I know.
Okay. But speaking of recommendations, so I asked some folks in our Discord who were also participating in Junesploitation to tell us what were 1 or 2 of your favorite watches from this month. And we'll share ours at the end of the episode as well after we go through all our picks. But I did want to share some of those folks' picks for their favorite watches for the year. And a lot of them were doing first-time watches as well, but some of them were just following the themes and picking some of their favorites from that and doing rewatches, which is a great way to do that too. Because then you're guaranteed to not hit a dud, because I hit a few.
Yeah, exactly. The first couple of years, I've watched a lot of stuff I'd seen before.
So we have, and I'm just going to use their Discord names because I don't know if anybody's weird about don't share my real name. I don't know. So Omaha John said Rats, Nights of Terror for animals, and MMA for Blaxploitation.
Oh, yes.
MMA, longtime favorite here.
One of the best. Fanaka.
Absolutely. Adam H, Fultree's Contraband. Never forget them arresting that guy eating the spaghetti. That's the greatest part. He did also mention Gina, which that's a release from Canadian International Pictures, one of the OCN partners from Vinegar Syndrome. I've seen that as well. Definitely recommend it. It's really good. Jim put Scum and Rabid Dogs. He said he only managed to do the first week of Junesploitation. He didn't have much to pick from, but those are really solid picks, I think.
Hell yeah.
And good for you, Jim. Even if you can't do the whole month, you got in there. Dax Sousaphone. He said, yes, madam, for Cynthia Rothrock. Such a fun watch. Definitely hard agree on that. The ending to that movie is a jaw dropper. I Can't Stand Pickles and God Said to Cain, closely followed by Double Nickels. Wizard. He got to watch Miss 45 for the first time. And man, how amazing.
Yeah, one of the best exploitation films.
100%. He also got to watch Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man for a Free Space and Polizio Tecci.
Diodato, yeah.
5-star bangers for him, he said. Let's see. Maddie K555 said favorite first watch had to be Prince of the City. Anthropophagus said biggest surprises were probably Pigs, or AKA Daddy's Deadly Darling, and The Telephone Book.
Yeah, I think that was a Junesploitation from years back for me, which I loved.
Nice. MPLS Matt said Gina for a first time watch. So we had two people hyping up Gina. And he said New Jack City for best overall experience. I think he got to see that in New York at a screening.
Yeah, and I think Melvin Van Peebles was there.
Yeah.
And a couple of the cast members.
Oh, wait, Mario Van Peebles.
Mario, not Melvin.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Different Van Peebles. Okay, so let's see. John Kahn. Don't know what my favorite film this month has been, because I saw some all-time classics for the first time, like Tokyo Drifter and Spook Who Sat by the Door. I watched that as well. It's really great. That one's on Cave of Forgotten Films, if you haven't seen that one, folks.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
But my biggest surprise was how much I dug watching All I Want to Do, a.k.a. Strike, a.k.a. The Hairy Bird for 90s Comedy Day. In a full month of psychotronic weirdness, I didn't expect a coming-of-age flick with a gag about spermicidal cream to be so high up on my list of favorites. Thank you, John, for that.
The Hairy Bird should be the just only title.
Yeah. And then Ryan BMD, The Lady in the Car with Glasses and a Gun stood out among my favorite of my picks. We talked about that one in our Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hype episode, very briefly.
Yep.
So thanks, everyone, for sharing your favorite picks. We will share a few of ours after we go through all of these. Let's jump in. Teenagers, Lance.
Okay, I'll start. You want to start?
Go for it.
Okay, and I think everybody will know that we're covering 60 movies at least, so we're going to be probably speeding through a bunch and spending time on others. But let's run through it. Youngblood was my first pick from 1978. This is my teenager's pick, directed by Noel Nosek, who also did Best Friends. First things first, it has a great original score performed by the
Bon Jovi.
No.
Shut down in a blaze of glow.
Youngblood, I see what you did there. But no, by a band called War, W-A-R.
Okay.
Amazing title track, an original song to kick it off. But yeah, this is it's your usual kind of coming of age type of movie. Gang wars, drugs, trouble at school, the attitude, the overall gritty 1960 alleyways where this takes place in the 60s. There's a lot of fights that break out between the kids, and I love the grittiness, the look of it. It crams a lot of stuff. It's a short 86-minute runtime, so it gets a little overwhelming, but it does spend enough time on the characters to have them fully developed, established, and you're kind of rooting for them. Mm-hmm. I wish some of the key characters were better established, but again, it's just this great cast of young actors. They're all kind of having fun with these serious tones from time to time. Has a very downer of an ending, which I always appreciate. But it's funny because as usually the dramatic scenes and including the downer, the downbeat ending is happening, you got the funky soundtrack of War going on in the background, which kind of makes it a little odd to watch. But also on Instagram, I posted my daily picks as an Insta story, and Shad Youngblood said that he felt a connection to this movie for some reason. Wonder why.
Okay.
Youngblood.
Please elaborate, Shad.
So that's my teenager's pick.
All right.
Kicking it off. I recommend it. I mean, obviously I recommend everything. There's a couple of these I'm going to say probably stay away from.
Oh, well, look at you.
But everything, again, could be your favorite movie if I don't like it.
Okay.
What about you, Erica?
I did The Runnin' Kind from 1989. Not very teenagery movie, more of a punk rock movie, but I mean, it has teenagers in it, so it counts. And it's in Mike McPadden's teen movie Hell book, so I think that makes it count. It's also in Zach and Brian's Destroy All Movies because it's got punks in it. It is co-written by Pleasant. I never knew how to pronounce her name, but I think it's Geman, Gehman. And she's the best part of the movie. No one else is compelling in this. Everyone else is boring in this. Even Juliette Lewis, who's in this.
Oh.
She shows up as like the little sister of this preppy guy, Joey. He had seen a girl drummer in a punk band and decides to, instead of going back to law school or spending the summer interning at his father's law firm, that he's going to follow her to LA. And then, so the movie pretty much follows like him finding her, and he meets up with Pleasant Gemmen's character, and just kind of like fish out of water. And then of course he evolves into like sort of being a punk and dressing like one, and like the people who are sent to look for him can't even recognize him anymore. You know, it's messy. Pleasant Gemmen, you know, like I mentioned, she co-wrote it, and clearly she has her pulse on what's going on in like the 80s and the punk rock scene and stuff like that, kind of like in the realm of like Penelope Spheris, but she's not a great storyteller. So I think there's kind of it loses focus a lot and just kind of goes all over the place. It's almost like a slice of life in a way, but there's this narrative about this one guy's conflict, but he's not even the most interesting character in it. So I think the music is probably the best part of it, but don't expect punk like you would get in Decline. You know, this is the central band in this is Gemmen's real band, the Screaming Sirens, and it's more pop punk, or not pop punk. It's pop by punks. So kind of like the Go-Go's.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, there's like lyrics like buried alive in a landslide of love. So yeah, it's not punk.
I like it.
Of course. There's a lot of men fixing things for women in this movie, which I'm not a fan of. There's kind of no real conflict other than this preppy guy who you don't really connect with, not wanting to follow what his father wants him to do.
Yeah, this does sound very, I think a lot of the teenager picks, I bet, are very like what you just said, slice of life. Just a lot of what teenagers go through.
Yeah. I think it's frustrating because, like I said, it's not very well written from a traditional standpoint. And I don't necessarily need everything to follow a perfect narrative line. But considering who wrote it, I guess it would be weird if it had those expected tropes or elements. And it's just weird that, like, she wrote or co-wrote it and she's not really the central character in it. Because if, like, you know, if you write what you know, and she did to a certain extent, but she didn't put herself in the center of it, I think that kind of is ultimately what made it suffer. I still think it's definitely worth a watch, especially for the music, slice of the late 80s LA punk scene. You know, I was 10, but, you know, I got to go back and listen to some of the stuff. I didn't live it, but I mean, I'd recommend it. I think some folks would definitely like it. I watched this one on YouTube.
Nice.
Okay, I spent way too much time on that one. I'm going to go more quickly now. Monsters. Next category. I watched Three-Head Monster. Not three-headed, just Three-Head Monster from 1988. This was also on YouTube. It's a Taiwanese kids monster movie about everyone trying to capture the 1,000-year-old ginseng, which looks like microwave leftovers on the Jim Henson Company floor. And that's not a bad thing. I love it. There's like one monster who, Sig Heils, when he sees the Buddhist quote unquote swastika, because he doesn't understand it's inverted. The three-head monster, not three-headed, is the bad guy in it who's wants to like eat the ginseng, so they have like superpowers. There's lasers. There's a witch chained up in a dungeon. There's too much random weirdness in this to even remember everything. It's fun. I would definitely recommend it. It is a kids movie though, so just, you know, keep that in mind. But it has enough weirdness for adults who like psychotronic, weird Taiwanese fantasy movies as well.
Nice.
So Three-Head Monster 1988. That's on YouTube.
Okay, my monsters pick was The Lorelei's Grass from 1973. I had never seen this. Also known as The Night the Screaming Stopped. Armando de Osorio.
Yeah, that's our boy.
Of course, the Blind Dead films, our Demon Witch Child episode we did with Laird. Everybody should check that out. But first things first, we've talked about shitty monster gloves and Kotze's the black cat. The gloves here may be worse for the creature. Yeah, this monster is very goofy looking, but it is savage, ripping its victims apart, tearing breasts off women.
Yeah.
There's a murder within the first 3 minutes that's just brutal. But yeah, it's about the Lorelei legend, which involves a woman who transforms into a beast on full moons and feeds on human hearts in order to return to her old original form. And the monster's killing a bunch of young women at a boarding school, so they bring in an experienced hunter, played by Tony Kindle from The Whip and the Body. And he's brought in to guard the place and hunt the beast. All the ladies love him. You know who the beast is early on,
Yeah.
like right away. So there's no mystery. You're just kind of waiting for the inevitable final showdown, which, it's certain to come. It's a lot of fun to watch because for 1973, like I said, the lizard creature, it's like a lizard creature.
Mm-hmm.
Looks very goofy, very rubber suit, but the practical effects are really great. But yeah, the score's very interesting. It's by Anton Garcia Abril, who did most of Osorio's movies and some of Klimovsky's. But there's this prominent single bass note that goes on throughout the movie. It's like this boom, boom, boom. And I swear it's the exact opening note from Porno for Pyros, Packing 25. The exact intro. It's the same note. But yeah, I watched this on Tubi, and a lot of fun. Good stuff. And then day 3 is Poliziotteschi, which I picked Like Rabid Dogs from 1976, directed by Mario Imperoli. This was a physical media one that I've had from the Years of Lead set from Era Video. Written by Regnoli, who did Burial Ground, Nightmare City, Patrick Still Lives. Again, first things first, banger of a score. Mario Molino does this great, catchy score. Has an ultimate dummy drop within the first 5 minutes of the movie. A woman throws herself out the window, which is very fun to watch. Yeah. Piero Santi plays the commissioner, he's leading this case, and he reminded me of like an Italian Martin Landau. Maybe it's because I watched a bunch of Martin Landau movies fairly recently, but physically and the way his interactions were, he was a great actor in it, but physically he looks like him. Yeah, he's after these 3 rich kids who are terrorizing the local area, robbing banks, raping women, assaulting, killing people, similar to the Savage 3. Mm-hmm. Not as good, though. I love Savage 3 by Vittorio Salerno from the year before, 1975. But the star of this is Paolo Senatore, and she plays the commissioner's kind of lover as well as an undercover cop. But her character kind of felt like deserves her own movie because she's basically the one solving the case.
Of course.
She's doing all the legwork.
She's the Erica Blanc.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's telling Paul Naschy what to do. Yeah, I respected it. I was looking at a lot of reviews, and a lot of people said it's just very kind of standard. There's nothing really going on. And it's true. There's no real mystery. It's very just throwing in all the tropes at you. A lot of car chases and gunfights and rapes and bloody gunshot wounds.
Sure.
But yeah, her character is worth watching it alone. I mean, I love the simplicity of it. There's no confusing plot or storyline. So
okay.
Yeah, I recommend it from that set. Like Rabid Dogs.
That's a great set overall.
Yeah, really is. There's a couple I still need to watch from it.
So Poliziotteschi for me was Cross Shot from 1976. So something I should have mentioned earlier. I made a goal this month to make or to watch as many John Saxon movies as possible in all my picks because he is a Renaissance man who can be in every genre of film. So I did end up watching a very good chunk of my Junesploitation watches with John Saxon.
Nice.
So this is the first one. He plays Commissario Havovella, I think his name was. He's trying to track down the gang who killed a cop during an attempted robbery. During the robbery, one of the guys in the gang steals a car from the brother of Dante Ragusa, who's played by Lee Cobb. Kinderman from The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
And so this has documents which implicate Kinderman, Ragusa, whatever, Kinderman, in the numerous crimes involved with judges and other members of the law. So you have like the bad guys going after the robbers and John Saxon going after the robbers, but both for different reasons. Then you also have the newspaper reporters and editors involving themselves in the investigation. Obviously, we're talking years of lead. There's a lot of issues with police corruption, and the newspapers are always painting them as the bad guys. I mean, cops are the bad guys, but even then, even John Saxon, I'll say it, I know. It moves quickly since there's a lot going on, but not too much so that it gets muddled, which can sometimes happen in these, I think. I liked it. I got to see John Saxon pull off turtlenecks, which not many men can do.
I thought you were going to say his weenie.
Oh my God, I wish. I did get to see him in his underwear, so there was a quick no pants moment. But I mean, yeah, no wiener. I've never seen it. If anyone has a line on John Saxon showing his wiener in a movie, please let me know. Because, yeah, Robert Culp's didn't quite do it for me. So that was Polizio Tecci, Cross Shot, 1976. Next category was Cars. And this is normally my least favorite category. I mean, Death Race 2000, like movies like that are fun, but that's because of who's in them. And I think this is kind of the same thing for me because this is a lot about who's in it. This came as a recommendation from listener Matt or MPLS Matt. I don't even remember what my original pick for Cars was, but he had recommended this one in our Discord, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I'm gonna watch that one instead." And I'm really glad I did. It's Watch Out, We're Mad from 1974, currently streaming on Prime. And this stars Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill. It's an Italian comedy. And I haven't dipped my toes into too many Italian comedies because I'm just like, me and comedy is already not a great fit. Italian, though, I could definitely get down with more Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of these. And so premise of this one, they're enemies on the racetrack. They team up to get their prize dune buggy replaced from this rich guy who's trying to be evil but needs an unhinged Donald Pleasance as a German psychologist to tell him how to be evil. It's lots of fun. There's great car action, great fights. I'm definitely excited to watch more of these, especially because Terrence Hill is very easy on the eyes.
Yeah, he is. Sometimes he reminds me of Franco Nero.
Yeah. I don't want to be in that sandwich.
The Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill
no,
sandwich.
Not that sandwich.
Bud Spencer's great too.
He is. He's a lot of fun in this. Matt did warn about the theme song, the Oliver Onions Dune Buggy song, and I even just saying it now, it's stuck in my head. So
Bet you'll never ever get away. Never ever get away. Jim Baggy.
Those are the best.
there is an earworm song in this, so be warned, but it is a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorite watches of the month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. What about you for Cars?
So Cars, I might be the only one that's listening to this right now that hasn't seen this, but Titan or Titan, however you say it.
Okay, yeah.
From 2021. I'm going to butcher her last name too. How do you say it?
Ducorno?
Ducorno. Julia Ducorno. She obviously did Raw, which I saw at Fantastic Fest when it premiered. But I had been wanting to see this for a long time. You really talked it up when you saw it. Everybody on Letterboxd and that I've talked with has said nothing but highly great things about it. And I don't really want to spoil anything for if there's anybody who hasn't seen it, because even if I attempt to summarize it, I feel like I would give away some moments where there's so many changes in the story that just brings on these reactions. Or like, where did this come from?
Right.
Like, why is this happening? So I'm just going to take Letterboxd silly summarization here. It just says, following a series of unexplained crimes, a former firefighter is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. And when you watch the movie and you read that, you're like, wait, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But man, is it the situations that unfold, they're so absurd and bizarre. It's completely like otherworldly sounds like a stupid word to use, but nothing seems real, but it is presented in this realistic manner where you just kind of, and it moves so fast, you just can't really stand back to kind of realize how strange it all is. It's just entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
In a very slow manner, very deliberate pacing. But yeah, as I was, my friend Austin, who's in our Discord channel, They Live, he was watching Crash. He had never seen Cronenberg's Crash that day.
Hell yeah.
because he participated in Junesploitation as much as he could.
Yeah.
And I asked him as he was watching it or after he watched it, I was like, are you turned on right now after watching Crash? And he replied, he's like, I'm afraid of fucking my car 100%. And that's the beauty of, this is kind of a spoiler, but that's the beauty of Junesploitation, where two people can watch two different movies where the main characters fuck their car. It's the epitome. It's like, it's the special feeling you get with Junesploitation.
Yeah.
So yeah, Teton. And next is 90s action, which I went with Tough and Deadly from 1995.
Of course you did.
Starring Billy Blanks and Roddy Piper. I watched Back in Action last year for the 90s action, so I had to follow up with this reteaming of Blanks and Piper. Roddy's character, first off, his name in this is Elmo.
What?
That's his name.
Why?
Because it's amazing.
Okay.
And he has, it's exactly what you would imagine. And he has this take no shit attitude. He's a bounty hunter / private investigator. He has this terrible painted 5 o'clock shadow throughout the whole movie. It's like painted on his face. It's not real. It looks fake as hell, but I love it. It's just, I feel like it was there to specifically make me smile as I was watching it. But anyway, his character, Elmo, he hears about this Billy Blanks character who's found on the side of the road, completely beat up. He thinks he might be worth money, so he goes and checks him out. And Blanks' character, like I said, he was beat to a living shit, but he escaped before these mobster guys kind of killed him. And Roddy gets to him at the hospital. Blanks has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything, and all these people are trying to kill him before he gets his memory back because he's holding all these secrets. Nobody really knows who he is. You as the viewer as well. So Roddy and Blanks, they team up. He can't remember his name, so Roddy throws a knife at a map, and it sticks to Portland. So he starts calling him Johnny Portland.
Okay.
And, Blanks is all Portland. Okay. And he's all, another inch and your name would have been Puget Sound. The dunce.
Well, what if he hit Rancho Cucamonga?
Then he would have been Johnny Cucamonga. That would have been worked. I mean, Roddy's name was Elmo.
It's true.
But there is this great montage scenes of Elmo training Portland back to health. They're in the park doing sit-ups, running, pull-ups. It quickly establishes their, buddy relationship, doing high fives. But they're working out basically to get, you ready for it? Back in action.
Of course.
So James Karen, Frank from Return of the Living Dead, he plays the top CIA agent. And Kramer's lawyer from that Seinfeld episode where he spills the hot coffee on him.
Yeah.
It's like, the glove don't fit. He's one of the corrupt CIA agents. So the cast is really fun to watch. A lot of recognizable people kind of pop up. But no, it's not as good as Back in Action. Tough and Deadly is not as good as that. But I think it's a great pick for 90s action because it's just basically car chases and roundhouse kicks, mindless plot. The ending is just complete chaos, buildings blowing up for no reason. You don't know who the good and bad guys are at that point. They're just shooting at each other. So I dug it. That's it. That's my 90s action. James Glickenhaus was the producer. He did The Exterminator and The Protector with Jackie Chan. And I noticed that he also wrote an original song that's in this movie.
Oh, shit.
So there are some original songs that are pretty terrible. But I do recommend Tough and Deadly. It's super short. I think I watched it on like YouTube or something.
Sounds about right. So I watched Maximum Force from 1992 for my 90s action. This was on YouTube. This is another Saxon movie. It is a very average and forgettable one. John Saxon gathers a team of 3 cops to work together outside of the law to take down the criminal played by Richard Lynch.
I always love Richard Lynch.
I do too. And I mean, that's usually a cast is a big reason why I pick a movie like this. Cause I'm like, okay, this movie is boring and forgettable, but at least like I'm watching Richard Lynch and John Saxon. Yeah. I mean, cause I could just like watch or listen to John Saxon boss people around all day. I wish he was still around to boss me around, but I mean, can only wish.
Yeah.
So yeah, Maximum Force and whatever. I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not going to not recommend it though. It's just one of those forgettable ones. So Let's move on to our first free space. I watched Loft from 1985. I had to download this from Legal Adjacent Methods. This is directed by Eckhart Schmidt, who did Gold of Love and Durfan. I guess it's sort of like a loose trilogy with those three films. So the description of it says it's a post-apocalyptic world, but there really isn't much supporting evidence for that, as it starts right away kind of going through the city. There's this rich yuppie couple that go to an underground art show in a loft, and the artist putting it together don't appreciate that the couple are not, I guess, appreciating the work. They're too busy like fondling each other and like having sex in another room and basically disrespecting the art, you know?
Right.
So they take them hostage in the loft after everyone else has left. There's torture and rape, and one review I read described this as Last House on the Left, directed by Gaspar Noé. I think that's pretty accurate. Although I don't want to take away from Eckhart Schmidt, because I think like what he does, and when he does it, it's done really well. Like he makes really upsetting movies that you want to rewatch. So I think he shares that DNA kind of with Gaspar Noé, because Gaspar Noé makes upsetting movies that you want to rewatch. I think most people do. Some people, I don't know if anyone wants to rewatch Irreversible. I did, but so yeah, Loft 1985, directed by Eckhart Schmidt. Another one of my favorites from the month. Definitely recommend it.
Nice.
What about you for your first free space?
My first free space, I jumped into the Twilight Year set, the Doris Wishman Twilight set that AGFA released. I went with the Immoral 3 from 1975, also known as Hotter Than Hell, which is what splashes across the screen in the very beginning.
Okay.
What did they fear? Who wanted them dead?
Kill her! Kill her!
Why were they the Immoral Three? They loved. They lusted.
So it's a sequel of sorts to Double Agent 73. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
With Chester Morgan?
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of Chester Morgan.
Yeah, so this is about a woman. Her name is Jane, also known as Double Agent 77.
Mm-hmm.
And she's murdered in the very beginning. And at her funeral and the will read, three women, young women, are brought together. And they're all told that they're sisters. They're all daughters of Jane, the double agent. Some of them are called occupational side effects due to Jane sleeping with the enemy to get information out on her missions. But in her will, Jane points out that if she's murdered, her three daughters have a year to avenge her death in order to receive their inheritance, which is $1 million each. And if one of them dies during the search, they'll split $2 million and so forth. Like one girl could end up with $3 million. And if they can't find the murderer after a year, for some reason, just you have a year to do this. The money goes to the executor of the estate. So these three girls, they meet for the first time. They live together in their mother's house, and their dead mother's house, and they work together and start planning to find out who murdered their mother. It's a giallo of sorts. There's every time they go and interview somebody who might have information,
Mm-hmm.
It's cheesier than you can imagine.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But, they're in one room, and sometimes they're in the same room as the person they're talking to, and like a black glove will just come up from off screen and kill that person. And then they'll turn around and be like, what the hell? And so you're left guessing, who is this that's killing all these people? And it works. It's effective. I was completely entertained by this. I've seen a few from this set, and I've watched a few other Doris Wishman. This is one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's probably right up there with like, what is it? A Night to Dismember.
Mm-hmm.
These two have been my favorite. But I've only watched like 4 or 5 at first. I need to dive more into this Twilight set. But it's not hardcore at all. There are some softcore scenes or some D&P. But the acting is so much fun. The lead, I mean, she's very captivating. She plays both one of the daughters, Jenny, and then she also played the dead mother, Jane.
Okay.
So she's apparently like her true daughter. But anyways, she's great in it. Better than Chesty Morgan. I hate to say it, but
I mean, she's not known for her acting skills.
Frank Silvano, he plays this guy named Joe Bianca. One of the guys that might have information about the mother's killer, but he gave me some serious Lee Van Cleef vibes.
Oh.
Physically and the way he acted, I was very captivated by a short scene. But all three ladies in this are just amazing to watch. I'm excited to dive into the set more because of this movie. Nice. Really good. The Immoral Three. Then we have slashers next. I went with Death Nurse from 1987. Another Nick Millard movie. So Priscilla. So I wanted to watch Criminally Insane for a long time, and then Adam in Discord was like, I noticed that he had recently watched it, and he was like, "Oh man, I love this movie," and I was like, I'm gonna watch it. It's only an hour long, like almost all of these movies by Millard, and Priscilla Alden plays Ethel Janowski in Criminally Insane, and she's Death Nurse in this slasher that I watched, and she plays Edith Mortley, and she's exactly the same character. Nick's mother's Frances plays a character in this as well, but it's very basic stuff. You know it from the title. Edith is a killer nurse. She murders patients in many ways. There's a good 2 minutes spent smothering a guy with a pillow. She hacks a few people up with butcher knives. And her brother, Gordon, is the doctor of this kind of very makeshift hospital, which is basically Nick's apartment. But he uses like wooden handle kitchen knives to perform surgeries. He's failed surgeries. It's obviously very DIY, very shot on video feeling. Mm-hmm. And Millard he's definitely trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice. Like, it's so much footage from Criminally Insane is used. But the new scenes from Death Nurse is just kind of Alden pacing around the room. She's typing a lot, goes on a little too long. She feeds her patients to her pet rats, which is really, endearing the first time. But when you see it the fourth time, it's like the same shots over and over again. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little much. But again, I found it endearing. It does have funny moments. They do have this scene kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's setup where they have this man that they murdered, and they want to continue to collect money from like the government and stuff for caring for him. Mm-hmm. So somebody comes up and they kind of like, wave his arm behind the bed. It's funny. There is one scene where Gordon wants to attempt his first heart transplant on a random patient, but they don't have a heart. So they use the heart of a dog. And as Edith is carrying it over, she drops it, and their cat, who just runs around, picks it up in its mouth and runs off with it.
Okay.
So good.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely your taste on these movies. I immediately watched Death Nurse 2 after this, by the way. And I have to say that it's a true sequel. It picks up right where the first one ends, which is kind of a cliffhanger. One thing that is amazing is Frances Millard, who's in the first Death Nurse. She dies. She's killed. Spoiler alert. And in Death Nurse 2, her twin sister pops up to look for her. So you have two Frances Millards. Okay. But yeah, I love Priscilla Alden. I definitely want to watch more Millard movies that have nothing to do with her, though, because, Criminally Insane 2, Death Nurse 2, they're all the same movie.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're very enjoyable. I found them very, very much fun.
Okay.
What'd you pick for slashers?
Another John Saxon movie.
Here we go.
It's not Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched Blood Salvage from 1990. This is the length I will go to for John Saxon, as I will watch a horror comedy for the slashers.
I think I had that on our list a long time ago.
I think I took it off.
Yeah, and I think it's over 1,000, isn't it?
It is over 1,000 now. Yeah. Yeah, it's so it's about this redneck family with a salvage yard / tow truck business or auto repair shop, something, one of those. They kidnap people who are traveling after they cause them to get a flat tire or a breakdown so that they can harvest their organs or their blood or put them in these like weird contraptions to get their blood out of them. So, the main family has John Saxon. He's driving an RV in the sexiest way you possibly can. It's a very obvious Texas Chainsaw ripoff, but it's trying to be TCM 1, but with this humor of TCM 2, but it's failing at the humor. It's watchable. Like, I didn't hate it, and I normally hate fucking horror comedies, but it is pretty forgettable, except for the fact that John Saxon's in it.
Yeah, and just for the record, that was the only reason I put that on our list initially.
Because John Saxon,
right?
Yeah, I appreciate you for that.
It's kind of an Oliver Reed type situation.
I get it. I'm with you. I wouldn't have hated you for picking it had we gotten to it before it hit 1,000.
Cool.
Because I would have just been like, I'm just going to watch John Saxon movies, and we'll talk about this movie for 5 minutes. No, it has some decent gore. It has some moments that I didn't hate, and it doesn't have like the eye-rolling slapstick humor that really bothers me in horror comedies. Like, it's very understated, but it just, it's not working.
Right.
It's like either you go like full, like over the top TCM2, or how to, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. What's the next one? Canon. Canon category. I think we have a samey, or maybe you did this one for a different category. Crack House.
I changed it.
Okay.
After seeing your review.
Okay.
And there's another reason that I changed it.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a lot of love from people for this movie, and Crack House 1989 stars Jim Brown. That's a big reason I picked it, R.A.P.
Right.
But Jim Brown doesn't show up for almost an hour. And, Canon movies are usually like dumb fun. This one is not. It's actually kind of boring for most of it. It's interesting to see Brown playing like this skeezy bad guy. It's just, I don't know. It's more of a love story between Melissa and Ricky. Like, she gets hooked on crack after he goes to jail, and then she gets raped by like everyone. And then she gets kidnapped by Jim Brown, and Ricky has to like go save her after he gets out of prison. It's just weird, sort of like urban love story. That's all, I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I changed my pick because I did see your rating, but again, I did see a lot of people on Letterboxd that gave it a lot of love.
Yeah.
And right after you watched it, Joe Lynch, who I follow on Letterboxd, he's a director.
I know who he is.
He gave it a high rating as well.
Of course he did.
But I think he thinks Richard Roundtree was Fred Williamson because he's like Jim Brown and Fred Williamson on opposite sides of the law. And I'm like, dude, you need to change your review. But but when he said that, I was like, wait, Fred Williamson is in it? I'm going to watch it. No, it's not. It's Richard Roundtree.
Yeah.
So I did change mine.
Okay.
And mainly because of your rating, and also because I found this Canon movie also had, the one I picked, had Ice-T in it. I was like, you got to have Ice-T.
Yeah.
Rappin' from 1985.
Party people in the place, pay attention to me. I'm gonna tell you a story about an MC or a rapper. That's a person who rhymes to the beat, a musical rhythm on city street.
My name is Ice and I own this town.
That's only when Hood's not around. Now John Hood's his name, rapping's his game. Word manipulation's how he gained his fame and life. Robin Hood, he's honest and true and always down with his partners, the Wild Thing crew. Rapping.
What's on your mind, man?
Rapping.
Directed by Joel Silberg, who did Breakin'. You know, the breakdancing movie.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So Mario Van Peebles, who I mistakenly name dropped his father for New Jack City, but Mario Van Peebles stars in this. He just got out of prison in this movie, right? And the first thing he does is dance and rap as he's walking out.
As you should.
This is a musical. They have songs. There's terrible original songs, movies called like Snack Attack. It's time to eat. Here we go. It's good. Let's dance to the beat. It's just bad. It's so fun though. So get this. So he's walking out of the prison. He's known in the neighborhood as Rappin' Hood. That's right, people.
Oh, God.
He steals and gives food to the poor. He steals oil.
But he steals he's got to be rapping while he's stealing, right?
A lot of times. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Sometimes he's just fucking looking awesome and helping people. He steals oil from like these oil rigs so that people can heat their own home.
Yeah.
He helps stop gentrification with his rapping gang. Yeah. I mean, it's PG. It's 100% PG, which is why I liked it so much, because it's just low stakes, positive musical numbers. Instead of fights, they're dance offs.
Yeah.
And Mario Van Peebles seems so happy to have this lead role. It's his first lead role, and he is nailing it. smiling the entire time. There's an amazing scene where Rappin' Hood, he gets a record deal because he breaks up a fight while rapping, like, you guys shouldn't fight. Let's be friends, he starts rapping to the guys that are about to fight. And, there's a record label producer just happens to be there, like in the background. He's like, who are you? I want to record you right away. So his whole thing kind of turns into like getting this money so he can help pay and help some people in the neighborhood. But this movie just stole my heart. Recommend it.
I want the Rappin' Jaws of Revenge crossover where Rappin' Hood is out on the boat, like with his little shark tracking doodads and rapping about ocean life.
We're gonna need a bigger boat for this job. That's a big ass piece. Good stuff. I mean, I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, which is way,
of course
it's rated way more higher than anybody
Sure.
gives it credit for. But it is fun. It is a lot of fun. Next, Fred Williamson.
Yes.
Which I was very excited that finally, after this movie, threw out Fred Williamson. He, to me, is like the epitome of this Junesploitation stuff. I went with Foxtrot, which I had never seen, from 1986. I wanted to watch another one that he not only starred in but directed, because I love his po' boy stuff. And he plays Thomas Fox, or as his California license plate says, Da Fox. And he's a terrible driver, by the way. In the very beginning, during the opening credits, it's just him driving, and he's swerving all over the place. I'm like, I'm already in love here.
Yeah.
He totally bitch parks when like directed by Fred Williamson is displayed, but he's like this. He's a private investigator, but he tells everybody I'm not a PI, for no reason. He's like a bounty hunter kind of, but he's hired to find a wealthy man's missing niece. She went to Europe 3 months ago and hadn't been heard of since. So Fox takes the job for $1,000 a day. And, she ends up not being the guy's niece in the end. And it becomes this pretty boring blackmail situation. Mm. The wealthy guy's played by Christopher Connolly, though. Manhattan Baby, Raiders of Atlantis.
Okay, yeah.
Bronx Warriors. He's great in it. But at this point, depending on how many Fred Williamson movies you've watched, you know exactly the role he's playing. He's the
ex-football player turned private eye, or ex-cop because he couldn't play by the rules.
Exactly. And that's who he is. He doesn't have a football backstory in this, but he still has his bad knees.
Oh, of course.
He's kind of the American James Bond in this. I think he's actually called James Bond or something,
okay.
But he is the American James Bond with bad knees. But he's super cocky, sucks cigars. Every scene he's in, takes cheap shots. And what did I write? He solves the case in the most boring manner possible.
Paperwork.
Yeah. Foxtrot is not the strongest in the po' boy production catalog, but somebody does need to step up and release it. It's him directing. Like I said, I wanted a Williamson directed movie because of his guerrilla filmmaking style. Obviously, no permits. Bunch of onlookers are just smiling at the camera when he's chasing a perp.
Yeah.
Total kind of like Larry Cohen style, but 100% po' boy cheap style. But I do recommend it. Oh, I did make a note here. There are multiple posters that I found. Like I said, I posted daily on Instagram, on the Instagram stories, and I picked a poster that's different from the one on Letterboxd for Foxtrot. And neither of them have anything to do with the movie.
Of course.
There's like sailboats and old cars like all around them. And I'm like, wait, what movie is this? Check it out, Foxtrot. Check out all the po' boy productions.
Okay. So I think I watched probably the best po' boy production. This came from a recommendation from my friend Lance, who loves these po' boy movies. I watched The Big Score from 1983.
Yes.
Also because John Saxon's in this.
Right.
Williamson is once again playing a cop. He has left the force because he can't play by the rules. But he also, before that, has been accused of stealing a briefcase full of money during a bust. So he has to prove his innocence while also tracking down the bad guys. Amazing cast. This has Joe Spinell, Crispin Glover, Richard Roundtree.
Bruce Glover.
Oh, what did I say?
Crispin.
Oh, you're right.
Another father and son.
I know. Fuck. Derville Martin, John Saxon I mentioned. I mean, come on. This is just, you're sold on the cast alone. Unlike that other, like, what was it? Miami Beach one with
South Beach.
South Beach. Jesus fucking Christ. That movie had everyone in it, and that movie is terrible. This one is actually a lot of fun and it has a great cast. So big score. It's probably on YouTube to be one of the things, and hard recommend for that one.
Yeah, and Jay Chataway did the original score. Which
yeah,
he
I
does
saw
all
that,
the
and I was
Bill
like,
Lustig.
this is Lance's favorite po' boy movie
Yeah,
right now.
I watched this a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it.
All right, so then next category is Kung Fu. So I watched Karate Girl from 1973. This is Turkish. And anyone who has been to an Alamo Draft House has probably seen this shut the fuck up PSA about a woman who comes in and karate chops a guy who falls on a bed, and then she brings out a gun and she shoots him 5, 6, 7 times, but it's all in slow motion. And every time the guy is like, oh, like overreacting and like turning around, hitting a wall, another bang, and all in slow motion. So I was like, I gotta watch this movie one of these days. So Kung Fu category comes up. I figured, all right, it's Karate Girl time. This is on Internet Archive if anyone wants to watch it. So Karate Girl, she is a mute. She lives with her father. She comes home to find 5 escaped criminals have killed her father. And they try to rape her, or I think they do actually rape her. Sorry. She gets some shooting and karate lessons from a guy who she later finds out is a police officer, and then it's revenge time. So the guy that you see in that shot, like the death scene, the Alamo PSA one with like the mustache and the dark hair, at one point, him and all the other criminals, because they also robbed a bank or they robbed something, but they're also on the run, and that's how they end up at Karate Girl's house and like kill the father and rape her. They go underground, and that guy thinks that the best way to disguise himself is to put on a blonde wig. Yeah, and it's pretty great. The martial arts in this is terrible. I mean, don't look at the poster and think like, oh, this is going to be great, like, you know, Cynthia Rothrock or something like that. No, she's terrible at karate, but it's a very fun watch. It's got some great music cues in it as well. So I'd recommend it. I wouldn't say it's near the top, but it's not my favorite watches of the month. But
I mean, that scene alone that a lot of people are familiar with, I feel like that's the reason I want to watch it.
Yeah, that's why I watched it.
Right.
So yeah, for sure. So Karate Girl 1973, that's on Internet Archive. What about you for Kung Fu?
I dove back into the Shawscope Volume 1 Arrow set. Mm-hmm. So Kung Fu Pick, Executioners of Shaolin from 1977.
Nice.
Directed by Lau Kar-leung, who did, Legend of the Drunken Master, 36 Chamber, all this good stuff. But this one is, I've been wanting to see this one before for a while because I had watched Clan of the White Lotus years ago from 1980, which Lo Lee directed. And it's basically that's a retelling of this of the Executioners of Shaolin. Right. Same character, storyline. It's about Hung Si-Quan. His master and brother are killed while their Shaolin temple is destroyed, and he spends 10 years trying to perfect Tiger Kung Fu to get his revenge on Priest Bai Mi, who's played by Lo Lee. And he refuses to learn his wife's fighting technique of crane style. And his wife is a badass. So while Hung is training, his wife, they have a child, and she starts training their son, Wending, crane style, her crane style. And, their son, he dresses as a woman, and all the other kids kind of make fun of him for learning crane, which I guess is a woman's technique of fighting.
Rude.
They kind of like, they say like, you don't know if you're a boy or a girl, and he's like kicking their ass and stuff. It's really cool. But it spends it spends a great deal of time of the father learning his own tiger style and him learning crane style. And so the father, he goes to finally, after 10 years of training, goes to fight Lo Lee's character with his tiger technique, and he can't beat him. Lo Lee's like, come back when you can do this. I'm not going to kill you. You're a good fighter.
Yeah.
But, try again. So another 7 years pass, more training, and he goes to defeat Bai Mi again, but this time he's killed, right? And his son, Wending, teaches himself tiger style for a year, and he goes to fight Bai Mi, Lo Lee's character, using both tiger and crane fighting techniques that his mother taught him. And does he win? If you haven't seen it, watch it and find out. But yeah, I mean, it's a great Shaw Brothers movie. Awesome story building. That's what most of the time spent on is the training. You learning the differences of the technique. So, and of course the fights are just all top notch. So recommend it. This is one of the last ones in the set that I hadn't watched. So that was another physical media one I watched.
Good for you.
Jump into 80s horror. I went with Evil Dead Trap from 1988.
Hideki!
Yeah, I had never seen this. Basically, it's like a talk show host / reporter. She sent a tape of a young girl being murdered, and she and a group of coworkers and friends, they head to the location to investigate. But all the characters, one thing I really loved about it is each character are just immediately likable. Like nobody's really annoying, or there's not like the comedic character. Everybody's kind of has like their backstories and relationships that they just establish very quickly in this. So you kind of care for them from the beginning, which makes the murder scenes kind of more horrific because, spoiler alert, they pretty much all get there. It's like, they all die. Not all of them, but awesome special effects. I typically, I hate to say it, but during these Junesploitation watches, knowing that we're going to record this episode, I typically sometimes will pick up my phone and, have notes, or, I'll have my laptop and I'll write down notes. I was fully engaged with this one. Like I was sitting in the theater. So I was like completely like focused and entertained with it. So that's like mad props to the storytelling and the pacing and the characters. But yeah, Hideki, that thing is, the moaning and the laughing is terrifying. I do have to say, I love the first like 2 acts. The final act, I thought kind of slowed down for me. I loved the first 2 acts. I liked the third act. I loved the ending, obviously.
Yeah.
But this thing definitely wears its influences on its sleeve. Little Fulci-esque eyeball trauma.
Yeah.
Even the original score is very Italian Suspiria sounding.
Yeah.
Maggots falling from the ceiling in the character's hair. Yeah, I mean, again, this is like Teton, where I feel like I might be the last one who's seen this one, but I loved this Evil Dead Trap. 80s horror for you.
This is another movie that we had on our potentials list for the podcast, and I have since removed it. Zombie Death House, 1988.
Oh, why'd you remove it? That's directed by John Saxon.
I know.
This thing, yeah. Woo, this thing's weird.
It's, John Saxon directed. Vietnam vet is wrongfully convicted. He ends up in a prison where the army is conducting experiments on death row inmates to create super soldiers. But they end up, of course, turning into zombies. The first 5 minutes, there's so much information. There's Vietnam flashbacks. He's got a new job. He's meeting up with an old friend. He's having an affair with an employer's wife. The editing on this is such a nightmare.
It's terrible.
I can't even. There's kids in the movie, but they survive. I'm trying not to be mad at John Saxon for that. Anthony Franciosa's in this from Tenebrae. He's great. I love him, but yeah, this whole movie is just, what the fuck? Like, it's so out, like, I'm talking about it now, and now I'm reconsidering putting it back on the list.
I think there's a lot to talk about it.
Is it over 1,000?
I don't think it is still. 427.
Okay, fine. I'll put it back on the list as a maybe.
Next pick.
Nah.
Just kidding.
Okay. I do give credits for like the end song, which I seriously doubt that they got the credits from Alternative Tentacles for Chemical Warfare by Dead Kennedys, but maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe maybe John Saxon and Jello Biafra are like this,
he's got to be a Saxon fan, so he's probably like, use it. Do whatever you want with this. And then he sees the movie. He's like, God damn it, John Saxon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's almost like more action than horror, but it does take a weird horror twist.
It's okay. This is a maybe episode for later, folks, so I'm not going to get any more into this. So yeah, 80s horror Zombie Death House, that was on Tubi.
Yeah, that movie's crazy.
It's a hot mess. I don't remember what I gave it.
I don't even think I rated it. It's one of those.
That's correct. That's the correct reaction. I don't think I should have rated it. Okay, next category is Westerns. And I watched Jonathan of the Bears from 1994. Is
that an original song?
Yes, it is.
I tell the tale of a man less and more than a man. He was raised in an animal's lair. Jonathan of the Bears. Jonathan of the Bears.
And it is starring my boy Franco Nero, directed by Enzo Castellari, and John Saxon stars in it as well. So Saxon plays an oil man. We don't meet him until about halfway through, maybe almost an hour into the film. The first half is sheer nonsense. It's jumping in between multiple timelines about Nero. Nero is playing Jonathan of the Bears. So it's him in present day, and then it jumps to the past where he sees his parents being shot and killed, and then he befriends a bear. This is a real bear, like with a child in the movie, by the way. Not a full-grown bear, but a baby bear.
Right.
But still, like it's a baby bear with a child. That bear can like still fuck you up. It's got claws.
Yeah.
You know, God bless the Italians, though. Still in the 90s, working on their child endangerment. So then he ends up getting raised by an indigenous tribe. Then we finally get to the conflict of the oil man trying to drill on this sacred land, and like he's got the whole nearby town behind him because they're poor and they want to make money. The score is like, I think somebody else in another review described it perfectly. It was like a direct-to-video action movie score in it, and I'm like, this is a Western. What are you doing? Nothing about this feels like an Enzo movie. It should have been made 20 years earlier. So whatever. But there is a kid death in it. So, I mean, I added it to my backup list, but
heck yeah.
I mean, so I got extra half star for that. And it's Franco Nero, and he's always great. John Saxon is playing a bad guy. I like it when he plays a bad guy.
Nice.
He plays in my no pants fantasies. But so yeah, Jonathan of the Bears, 1994. What about you for Westerns?
I went with Take a Hard Ride, 1975. Matty K in Discord also watched this. He had watched this before. I think I had Red Sun as my Western pick, which I also watched during June. But Take a Hard Ride, Fred Williamson. I was like, I want to get more than one Fred Williamson. You know, Foxtrot didn't really do it for me.
Sure.
Directed by Antonio Margheriti. He did another amazing Western, which I enjoyed more than Take a Hard Ride, called The Stranger and the Gunfighter with Lee Van Cleef. And love that movie. This one stars Jim Brown, Fred Williamson. Lee Van Cleef is also in it. Jim Kelly is in it. And Jim Brown plays a man named Pike, he's this close right-hand man of a wealthy livestock rancher. And the rancher suddenly dies of a heart attack. But while he's, seconds before he dies, Pike promises to take the recently acquired $86,000 to the rancher's family. But Williamson and Lee Van Cleef are aware of the money, and they're both kind of bounty hunters. So they're aware of him carrying the money, as well as a bunch of other like outlaws and kind of scumbags. So they're out to get him while he kind of treks across the terrain. And Williamson teams up with him to help him fight off these people that are also after his money. But he lets them know, like, hey, as soon as we get to the ranch, I'm going to fight and I'm going to kill you. I'm going to take the money. And, Jim Brown's like, okay, whatever. Williamson's secret weapon in this is he has a bag of snakes that he carries around. So he'll like throw snakes and stuff at people during fights. Jim Kelly plays this mute karate chopping Indian. It's fun. The characters are a lot of fun. One thing I did notice, though, and this is just me being nitpicky, but it seemed like a lot of the horses that were used in these, these action and stunt scenes were hurt or probably killed, because there's a lot of them, falling down, like little hills and stuff, and they're physically unable to get back up. You can see it. Ew. So when I see that on film, especially on some of these old Italian Westerns, I focus on that just for a little bit. It takes me out of the story just for a little bit. And again, it's just a personal thing of mine.
I have that thing, like every time I see a horse fall in an older movie, I like cringe and I like cry a little. And John's like, they're trained to fall down like that, Erica. And I'm like, yeah, but look how long it's taking him to get up.
I think some of them, in the, 70s and especially in Italian, I think some of them were probably killed or, they're maimed. I don't know.
Yeah. Way to bring the episode down, Lance.
It preoccupies my mind. Yeah, this is from now on. We're just going to talk about, animal cruelty in film.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I liked it. In my letter, our box review, I pointed out that the Margaretti's always great, and he has his cinematographer Palatini, who does a lot of his filming, his shooting. He did Castle of Blood, Long Hair of Death. So they have visually, it's beautiful, like scenes of just like a pickaxe stuck in the hard ground or something, and like pans up and follows the characters. They know how to shoot a film, so it makes it a lot of fun to watch. But with the stacked cast like this, I was kind of expecting something a little more. It feels very Americanized to me. Like they have Margaretti's using his Anthony W. Dawson pseudonym for the credit, but there's Jerry Goldsmith does the score.
Really?
Yeah, and he's like, Jerry Goldsmith. He was a great American composer. He's one of my most watched composers on Letterboxd. But he does a good stab at like doing his Morricone like impression for his music. Okay. But it sounds and like the action and kind of the story, everything seems kind of Americanized. And I kind of wanted something more. I wanted more death, more kind of something more Italian spaghetti Western feeling.
Are there any miniatures?
Are there what?
Miniatures?
No.
No, Margaretti's films always have really good miniatures in them. They're always fun.
They have great sets, like, Western sets, but yeah, no miniatures that I remembered. The best thing in this is Lee Van Cleef's hair. So, or lack thereof, but he has very long hair, and I hadn't seen him with his his long hair, bald top. But to me, it just felt like it was pulling its punches the whole time. But again, I still enjoyed it. The cast alone, visually, it's a lot of it was fun. Where did I watch? I think I watched that on Tubi. Animals. So I went with the short one. This is a Hammer House of Horror episode, actually.
Okay.
Called The Silent Scream from Hammer Films. This is Peter Cushing's last Hammer Films role. This is from 1980. But yeah, they filmed this as an episode of their TV series, but then they released it as a short film. But it has a 33-year-old Brian Cox playing a man released from prison. Do you watch Succession?
I haven't. I don't have any of the streaming stuff. I'm waiting for them to all be on physical media, and then I'll binge it.
It's good stuff. But yeah, I just finished kind of watching the series finale of that. So to see him as a 33-year-old, kind of young and spry, I was like, this is great.
Hot take. No, actually, no. I don't think this is a hot take because it's just the correct take.
Okay.
He is the best Hannibal Lecter.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. He is so creepy. But yeah, he plays this man who's released from prison. Peter Cushing visits him from time to time, or he visited him. You don't have any scenes from him being in prison. It starts off with him being released. Mm-hmm. But you learn that Peter Cushing visited him from time to time and gave him money, for supplies and stuff while in prison. Brian Cox doesn't know who this man is, so he comes home. He has his fiancée, and she's like, "Oh, you should go visit this man for helping you and thank him." So he goes to visit Peter Cushing, who owns a pet store. Cushing's very polite, very Peter Cushing, and he offers him a job, saying you're going to have trouble being, having a crime, a criminal record to find a job in this city. So let me work in my pet store. Help me out. So he goes out of town for a bit and has Brian Cox watching the pet store. And Brian Cox, being the criminal that he is, he sees that there's a safe upstairs. So he breaks into the safe, and it's booby trapped. And the floor drops out from below him, and he falls in this like steel room, and he's in there for days. And his wife's like going to the police, and the police are like, whatever, you're just, keep an eye out for him. He's out with his buddies, he's out of prison.
Yeah.
And she ends up breaking into the shop or getting into the shop and sees him. He's also Brian Cox's character is given like these automated meals, like it's a beeping sound and a tray will pop out. And also in the back room of the pet store, there's all these like panthers and tigers, these crazy animals. Where
Peter Cushing's involved in some illegal animal trade here.
There's something going down. Yeah, there's this weird mystery. Like, what is all this? And like the cages, he'll open the cages, so the animals can. It looks like, assuming that they're cage free, like they can just jump out. But there's like these invisible electric kind of force fields.
Okay.
And that kind of is in the room where Brian Cox is as well. Anyway, his wife finally gets in. She sees him in the room, and Peter Cushing's there and pushes her in. So you're like, oh shit, yeah, he's diabolical. He's like, he has a kitten with him and stuff. He's like, it's super cute. But yeah, it turns into this weird, what's going to happen? You have no clue what's happening here. Yeah. At first I was like, I mean, I could throw out my theories. I wouldn't spoil anything, I guess. But I thought, like, okay, maybe he's turning humans into these animals, you'll have a lot of theories that pop into your head.
Right.
All I will say about the ending is it's super bleak and it's downbeat and it's great. I would recommend this again. It's a little over an hour, I think, but Peter Cushing's last Hammer Films role, like, you should watch it.
Animals. I watched The Bees from 1978. Vinegar Syndrome have a release of this, and it's also streaming on Tubi. So it starts with a Brazilian bee farm / research facility burning down at the beginning. And this releases the killer bees that they had that they were working on. Then it jumps to America, where John Saxon and other folks, they want to build a facility in the States so that they can create a hybrid bee that will be less dangerous and create more honey. Yeah, I mean, it's got John Saxon doing yoga in a tracksuit. It's got a kid death. But, I mean, it's a man versus nature movie. And we all know how man fucks with nature movies end up, right? Mm-hmm. With John Saxon talking to bees, of course. But, yeah, I mean, there's no surprises in a movie like this. Like, you know exactly, like, where this is going, what the message is, and all of that. Like, the only surprise is like, oh, kid death, thank you. So...
Is there a brutal one? Is he attacked by bees?
The kids? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, like, the insect ones have a better track record because what was it? The Swarm had some. I think the Swarm had like 5.
5 child deaths?
Well, it was like kids on a playground or in front of a school or something. Maybe it was the Swarm. It was one of them. Yeah, I think it was a Swarm, and there were like kids out in front, and like I counted the dead bodies. So yeah, there's like 8 of them. Anyway, The Bees is fun. It's fine. You know, whatever. John Saxon, though, always a good thing. Then next, Free Space, I watched The Sadist from 1963. This is on Tubi and Cave of Forgotten Films as well.
I have been hurt by others, and I will hurt them. I will make them suffer like I have suffered.
The words of a sadist, one of the most disruptive elements in human society. To have complete mastery over another, to make him a helpless object, to humiliate him, to enslave, to inflict moral insanity on the innocent. That is his objective, his twisted pleasure.
So Arch Hall Jr. plays Charles Tibb. He is the titular sadist. And his look and his voice and his mannerisms are really like what make this movie. He is completely sadistic. So it's the most apt film name ever. So you have these 3 teachers who are on their way to a Dodger game in LA, and they break down in the mountains. And I think they even reference like a bunch of places like the high desert in Valencia. Like that's the area that I grew up. So the mountain that they're talking about crossing over to get to Dodger Stadium, like I know what they're talking about. I'm like, oh, they didn't take the 14 freeway. They wanted to go the back way to avoid that. And then you break down, lesson learned, take the freeway, even if there's traffic, because if you break down on the fucking mountain road, then you end up being held hostage by Arch Hall Jr. and a gun. So yeah, they're held hostage by Charlie, that's Arch Hall Jr.'s character, and his girlfriend at this remote desert mountain service station. It felt a little bit longer than it needed to be. 80 minutes, and this probably would have been a solid 4-star movie for me. Mm-hmm. But it does a lot with very little. It has a great fucking ending. It's a lot meaner than I expected it to be. And the DP on this is Vilmos Sigmund, who's a De Palma regular. And it's shot really well for what it is. It's black and white, daytime. You know, it still looks really great. So yeah, The Sadist, 1963. That's on Tubi or Cave of Forgotten Films.
Nice.
Free Space, Lance.
Free Space. So this is one I had in my watch list for a while. And it was like a last minute change too. Outrageous from 1977. Mm-hmm. This is kind of it's a Canadian comedy drama directed by Richard Brenner. It's about this character, Liza, who escapes from a mental institution after having been there for 8 years. She's schizophrenic, and she goes to her old friend Robin's apartment to help her and stay with him. And Robin, he's a gay hairdresser who he himself is like everybody in the world, but he has some. He's kind of depressed. He'd love to be a drag competitor. He does hair for a lot of the drag performers in the city, but he's kind of nervous. He's a bit of a perfectionist. Like he just critiques everybody. And so he lets her stay with him. They're friends for a long time. And Liza kind of helps him become this, live out his wish of being a drag competitor. And he helps Liza acclimate to a seemingly normal life. And he heads to New York. This takes place in Canada. And he heads to New York to he has some shows booked as a drag performer. And while he's away, Liza gets pregnant. And she starts kind of going crazy on her own, wanting to join Robin in New York. So he starts becoming the successful performer, getting well known, and he finds a place for her and moves her out there. And it gets dark. It gets really dark, but it's still, the whole message is like very tender. It's incredibly sad and realistic feeling, but it still has like these. It's a fun watch. I mean, there is comedy moments. And there's a lot of uplifting moments and like words of wisdom and stuff to make you take a step back and be like, yeah, I mean, this character, Robin, who's played by Craig Russell, is so captivating and so real. It was one of those movies where after I watched it, I learned about him in real life. Like I wanted to learn about who this actor was because he had very minimal credits. He died at a pretty young age as well. But I was like, this guy is a fucking star. Like he should be in everything. And Hollis McLaren plays Liza, and she's fantastic too. Together, they're kind of unstoppable in their scenes. So much emotion. Probably, I would easily say these are the two best performances of all the movies I watched probably in June. But Craig Russell, he was just an amazing performer. Actually, like 2 or 3 days ago, if anybody follows Ask Anybody on Instagram. Mm-hmm. That's Liz Purcell's. She runs that Instagram thing and does a lot of great posts that have to do with like queer cinema. But she had posted, it was like a 7-minute interview with Craig Russell that I hadn't seen. Oh. And it's really great. He's talking about, because there's a sequel to this called Too Outrageous that was made 10 years later. All the same cast and crew. I'm definitely going to watch it. Nice. Same director. But it just kind of showed like Craig Russell, like when he was being interviewed, I was like, this guy is so captivating, and he's an amazing performer. There was this really funny scene where one of the drag competitors wants to be Karen Black from Airport from 1975. He's all, what do you think of this? Karen Black from Airport. And Craig Russell's like, yeah, you can go for it. Or his Robin character. And he tries it and it bombs. So he's like, how about Karen Black in Nashville? Like he keeps trying to do these Karen Black movies. There's so many like film references and stuff throughout it. They just go to parties and they're talking about like Brian De Palma's new movie. Yeah. And, he's putting on the Carrie soundtrack and they're talking about Valley of the Dolls. And Robin does these Betty Davis, Barbara Streisand, Judy Garland, Mae West impressions that are just better than the real thing. Like it's so good. A stage show is so much fun to watch. And that's how he became like cast for this. Apparently he was really a performer. But Outrageous, 1977. I think it was on YouTube. But yeah, I highly recommend this. I'm glad I finally watched that from my watch list. Then next we have Ripoffs, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I had kind of said during our Heckle and Hype episode that I watched a Charles B. Griffith movie who directed Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype. Up from the Depths from 1979. This is a Jaws ripoff. My least favorite of the month. It's produced by Roger Corman, Cirio Santiago. James Horner did the original score. Yeah. And it's him doing John Williams' Jaws. It's not a shark killing people, though. It's a giant prehistoric fish. It's like, okay, that's a little different. There's a drunk, Quint character. It takes place in Hawaii, so it's this tourist area. Dr. Lee Hu from Heckle and Hype, Kendrick Wolf. Mm-hmm. He plays the mayor of sorts. He's in charge of the resort. And he's weirdly dubbed. Almost everybody in this are just weirdly dubbed. Mm-hmm. Like it's the real actors doing the voice, but I don't know if there were sound issues. But like I mentioned, this is my least favorite of the whole month. It doesn't have a clear idea of what it wants to be. It starts off with serious tones. There's a pretty cool, none of the deaths are cool, but you understand what they're doing from the beginning. But then it becomes like incredibly campy. The comedy elements just aren't funny at all. None of the characters are interesting. I forget who's who that pops up on screen. I'm like, was this that guy in that boat? It's just, I didn't, it seemed like it didn't care what you expected from a Jaws ripoff. And it was okay with that. It was like, we don't care either. We're just going to do what we want to do. It felt more like a 1950s sci-fi horror, which almost sounds like a compliment, but I mean it's not in a good way.
Okay.
Instead of like a Jaws ripoff, it's very PG, even though there's a lot of nudity and the Quint character like curses a lot. And I tried to step back and imagine someone who had never seen Jaws or would compare it to anything. And I'm like, most people would probably just turn this off. It's just a bad movie.
Yeah.
This is one I would not recommend. More people seem to like it though on Letterboxd than I did. So I'd watch Foxtrap like 20 times over this.
I think that's the people who rated it higher are probably all of the aquatic horror simps. So,
right.
Yeah.
And it has an amazing poster too, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
The
That
poster's
poster is
fucking awesome.
fantastic.
But I have to say, I think Griffith's masterpiece, and this is probably sad to say, is Heckle and Hyde.
Okay.
Okay, what about you? We are at Ripoff still.
Ripoffs, A Monstrous Corpse, 1981. We have a whole episode on it.
Yes.
Refer to that, please. Moving on to Yakuza. I watched Street Mobster from 1972. This is one of my physical media ones, Arrow Blu-ray.
Nice.
I have this. Directed by Kinji Fukasaku, starring Bunta Sugawara, another one of my loves. Or No Pants movie. So Bunta plays this street thug who likes girls and fighting. He's caught between these two warring Yakuza gangs. He ends up joining one, but gets bored because he can't fight as much. But even though he can't fight as much, there still is plenty of fighting. There's blood, there's debauchery. This is probably a good intro film for someone who's new to Yakuza films because it's not too heavy on like the rules and codes. But like many of these, it does have a lot of characters to keep track of. I think because Fukasaku's Battles Without Honor Humanity, those have a lot more different stylistic choices in them. This one's a little bit more straightforward, I think. So it might be a little bit more digestible for someone who's new to these, especially to Fukasaku Yakuza films. But I liked it a lot. It didn't stand out as one of my favorites of the month, but I think that's probably because I've seen other Fukasaku Sugawara Yakuza films, and so it didn't really stand out from those. But like I said, I do think it's a good intro film for someone who's never watched one of those. So what about you for Yakuza?
This one was one of my favorites of the month. It's called, I should have looked at it, Orohamansu from 1986. This is based on a manga story by Marley Caribou. It's directed by Yusaku Matsuda, who is one of the main bad guys like in Ridley Scott's Black Rain.
Okay.
But it's about a guy who shows up on a motorcycle in this Yakuza territory, and he's staying on the streets with the homeless. And the Yakuza think he could be like a spy or a cop from another region. He talks very little. He says he doesn't really remember a thing of where he's from or who he is. He's kind of indestructible, though, like Terminator style.
He's got Terminator glasses, too, it looks like.
Yeah, with that poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Yakuza jump him from time to time to try and get information from him, but the punches they're throwing and they're landing, they can't hurt him.
Uh-huh.
So they think he could just be some sort of dumb mute. Like he doesn't talk much. But so the leader of the clan goes to kind of check him out, the Yakuza clan. And this stranger, this mystery man asks if, do you have any work for me? I'd love to work for you. So he's hired. He starts kind of like acting as a bodyguard for these pickups, and he starts kicking ass. He has these crazy fighting techniques that no one really knows, including himself, how he learned this. So it's kind of like this mystery of where this guy comes from. It ends in a manner that you least expect, which that's one of the main reasons I loved it, was the ending, because it's not what you expect from a Yakuza movie, but there is so much style in this. Like the music by Toshihiro Nara is perfect. And this is a 1986 movie, and it seems timeless, like it could be made today.
Oh, wow.
Though there's really long takes, a lot of handheld shots, great crane shots, like these establishing shots to break up scenes. the pacing. There's a lot of dark alleyways. There's tons of neon lights on busy streets. And I think there's so much style in this because it's due to the first-time director, which is Yasuko Matsuda, who was an actor before this. This was his first time directing, his only time directing, and he ended up passing away like a couple of years after this from bladder cancer. I know a lot of people very much love or hate Ruffin's Drive movie with Ryan Gosling, but there's a lot of elements. Like if you love Drive, you're going to love this movie, down to the lead character and how much he acts, and the music, but the style, it's just great. If our podcast was called Unsung Actions, I'd pick this because it has like just over 100 views on Letterboxd. But yeah, this was a huge surprise. I saw this one on, this was on YouTube. Aho Mansu.
Nice. Fulci.
This is still me.
Yeah.
Okay, I went with his last film, Door into Silence from 1991.
I haven't gotten to this one yet.
Yeah, starring John Savage, D'Amato produced. It's one, you know how it ends. I mean, it feels very, kind of TV Fulci, but it still has the atmosphere that Fulci's well known. Louisiana shot, like it looks great, feels very Fulci, but I feel like it has the intention is to make you think what is happening, like there's a mystery here, can you guess it? But everybody knows it. I looked at reviews after I watched it, but within the first 5 minutes you know what's going on. It's a man chasing his death. He starts off in a funeral, and like right away you're probably like, oh, it's probably his funeral. And then there's this hearse that's kind of like running him off the road, and he's chasing the hearse to find out who's in the coffin and who's in the back. It's kind of like you know what's happening. But and I mean, it could work as Cars because it's essentially like a 90-minute car chase.
Yeah.
It's very basic. I mean, it has kind of low ratings. I think I gave it a lower rating than what actually it has on Letterboxd. But overall, I was entertained. I'm glad I watched it. There is a character, the main characters, a lot of his family members are in it, but his last name is Devereaux. So I kept thinking like, this could be some lives. No, I was thinking of Golden Girls, like Blanche.
Oh, Blanche Devereaux.
I was like, this could be some weird like Golden Girls canon where, like John Savage walks through the Miami house and Blanche is all, well, Melvin, I haven't seen you in ages. How sweet Aunt Martha. It's a good one. The funerals are fun to watch. There's multiple funerals throughout, and they're Louisiana funerals, New Orleans. So there's like jazz bands and stuff. So it has its moments. It's very middle of the road though. I think I gave it 2.5 stars in a orange heart.
That's fair.
And I ended up watching City of the Living Dead on his birthday. So I had to get that in.
There you go.
What'd you do for Fulci?
I watched one that was not directed by him, but just written by him, called The Trap from 1985. This is on YouTube. He was actually supposed to direct this, but he got ill. So then when he recovered from his illness, he made The Devil's Honey the next year. And we are all the better for having that movie in our lives. So this movie, The Trap, stars Tony Musante, who we love from Bird, and Florinda Bolkin, our girl from Flavia, score by Morricone.
Damn.
So Musante plays Michael, so I haven't even mentioned the star yet. The star is Laura Antonelli. So Musante plays Michael, and he had an affair with Marie years ago. But we start in present day where he's currently dating Florinda Bolkin. Good for him. But Michael is this like selfish man-child, and he gets really upset when Florinda tells him that she's going out of town for Christmas to spend it with her daughter and family. So while she's gone, Michael happens to run into Marie again because she just happens to live in the apartment across from Florinda. But they've never run into each other till now. But Marie now has a 15-year-old daughter. The mother and daughter hold Michael captive because Marie is not over the fling from 15 years ago. So I like this one a lot more than I was expecting to. I was like, okay, what can I watch for Fulci that I haven't seen before? Like, what am I gonna have to watch? But I liked it more than I was expecting to. There's a heavy use of flashbacks and like more kind of like elliptical editing. So it's a little jarring at first because The girl who plays Marie from 15 years ago is the same girl who plays the daughter. So
yeah.
you have to like say, okay, this is this time and this is now the same girl, but it's the daughter now. So once you have your feet planted and Misante's hands are tied to the bed, you're in for a decent ride. The version on YouTube is edited. You can tell there's some very hard cuts in it. I'm sure with like sex and nudity and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a more erotic cut out there than what I saw. But, that version is sufficient if you're curious about it. So The Trap 1985 on YouTube, but keep in mind it is an edited version. Then 90s comedy.
Yeah, everybody's favorite.
I went to Hong Kong for this because that's the only place I can tolerate some comedy. And this ended up being pretty far up there as one of my favorite watches for the month. I watched Future Cops from 1993. It's a very dumb Hong Kong action fantasy comedy directed by Wong Jing. It starts in 2043, where this guy, the general, has been convicted by a judge. His cronies decide to go back in time to make sure, or so that they're not going back in time to kill the judge, because this is like a comedy, like PG sort of comedy. Well, not really with Hong Kong. Anyway, they're not going back to kill him. Their plan is we're going to go back in time and make the judge dumb so he doesn't become a judge and doesn't convict our boss. So then the cops in the future also go back in time to try to locate the judge first so they can prevent him from being made dumb. So they end up at the school that the judge attends, and they have to find him there. And it turns out, they find him pretty easily eventually. There's a lot of riffing on like video games and anime characters. Like, I don't know anything about anime. No one at me. I don't want to learn anything about it. Like, don't be like, hey, Eric, have you ever wanted? No, I don't. I have zero interest in anime. Thanks. But it's extremely fast paced. It's got crazy action. Simon Yam is in it being goofy. There's a lot of familiar like Hong Kong faces in it. It's a lot of fun. So I'd recommend it. Future Cops 1993.
Nice. Yeah, I also went to Hong Kong with my 90s comedy pick.
Yeah.
Twin Dragons from 1992.
Aww.
So I watched, it was on Tubi, and this is the Dimension Films cut, which is about 20 to 25 minutes shorter than the Hong Kong version. And you can tell this thing is chopped up. So there is this awesome cold opening. So it's Hong Kong, 1965, the night the twin Jackie Chans are born. And this criminal runs into the room while the parents are, just chilling with their newborn babies, takes one of the babies and just runs off as the police pursue him. He jumps through the hospital window and he has his baby with him. He ends up just leaving the baby in the park, taking off. I forget if he gets caught. I mean, it's pointless anyway. It's not important. And a sex worker picks him up, the baby, and walks off with him to raise him. So the parents have no idea where the twin boy is. And they move to New York to live with now their only son, who becomes a concert pianist, while the other stays in Hong Kong, leading a life of crime. Okay, so you got two Jackie Chans. Very silly, setting the separated twins up as adults when it jumps to now Jackie Chan. While the pianist is playing in New York, one of his concerts, the other Jackie Chan, I think his name is Boomer or Boom.
Okay, Boomer.
What were their names? Boomer and John.
Oh, okay.
Boomer's the guy in Hong Kong. John is in New York. Again, this is probably like the Dimension Films. Okay, but so John's playing, his concert, huge audience. He's in this nice concert hall. Boomer, the twin, he's now a mechanic in Hong Kong, and his fingers start moving like, oh, what's going on? Like he's playing the piano. So though that joke is used way too long, the setup is way too long. Basically, when one of the twins has his nose tickled, the other one is like sneezing. Mm-hmm. When one gets hit in the balls, the other one feels it. The twin myth is strong here.
Okay.
And apparently the full cut has more of this twin telepathy happening. But, I had enough of it on the shortcut.
Okay.
And of course, how do you differentiate the same actor playing twin roles?
Mustache.
You give one, well, in this case, you give one a ponytail and an earring.
Okay.
And they look completely different.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, this is terrible Terrible dubbing, although it's fun. I read that Jackie Chan actually dubbed his own voice, for the English version. But it sounds like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon. It's like it's very exaggerated. The one I watched moved at like 100 miles per hour because it's just heavily edited and it kind of jumps. Maggie Chung is also a star in it.
Oh, okay.
But apparently she lost a lot of screen time with this Dimension Films edit. She plays a singer. I read that she has a musical number in the full cut, so I was a little upset that I didn't get to see that. But some cameos, David Chung pops up, John Woo. Again, I thought the setup was too long. The same joke was kind of recycled into so many different ways. Focuses a little too much on the love interest. It's not as action-packed as I was kind of hoping. I mean, the fights are great. I initially had this as my Kung Fu pick, and then I watched it, and I was like, there's like no Kung Fu in here. And yeah, I mean, you get 2 Jackie Chans, for one. So it's fun overall. I mean, I was kind of exhausted by the pacing and by a lot of the recycled jokes at the end, but yeah. And I ended up calling Cody afterwards, and I was like, "What'd you think of that movie?" He knew exactly what I was talking about. Okay, now we're jumping on to Blaxploitation.
Yeah.
Cool Breeze was my pick from 1972. This is produced by Gene Corman, Roger's brother, directed by Barry Pollock, music by Solomon Burke, who did the music for Fred Williamson's The Hammer. Okay. And Blaxploitation films, in my opinion, need a solid score. I feel like scenes rely heavily on the funky beats, and I just have to say Solomon Burke's score and Cool Breeze delivers. So it stars Thalmus Rasulullah, and he plays Sidney Lord Jones, who's just released from prison. As soon as he's out, he immediately begins planning a diamond heist, $3 million worth. And he borrows $50,000 to get a group together, comprising of a driver, a gunman, a boxman to crack the safe, who's also a preacher by day, which has some funny scenes. But the majority of the movie is establishing each man that's hired for the job, and all the planning that goes into it, which I really enjoyed watching because these characters are fucking badass. Really funny, but serious at the same time. For the actual heist, they wear these tiny masks of presidents that are like for a child, so they're real small. And it looks like it's super funny, but it looks kind of creepy. But the heist is pulled off, one guy's shot. The buyer for the diamonds doesn't come through, so things just really start snowballing during the final act as they kind of hide out with the jewels. The ending was pretty mediocre, kind of a letdown, but funny still. Great freeze frame shot. Young Pam Grier makes an appearance. Okay. Completely naked for those who need to know. But this is based on W.R. Burnett's The Asphalt Jungle. John Huston did the film in 1950. Some great lines of dialogue pop up. They're talking about like police, like walks like a duck, smells like a pig, definitely a cop. Just great interactions with these strong cast of characters. So I recommend it.
So Blaxploitation, I watched If He Hollers, Let Him Go, 1968. This is on Cave of Forgotten Films.
A new kind of hero.
Where's Blair? He knows how I was framed. You weren't framed. Framed, baby, framed.
A new breed of motion picture. If he hollers, let him go.
Not really a blaxploitation film after watching it. It's more of just a black man who's wrongfully accused of murder. So he breaks out of prison and ends up at the home he gets a ride from this one rich white guy played by Kevin McCarthy. And if Kevin McCarthy shows up, he's the bad guy, folks. You should just know that.
Yeah.
And I love it whenever he shows up. So he gets a ride from him. Kevin McCarthy happens to have some other, like, I'm not gonna get too far into the plot because then it sort of spoils it, but Kevin McCarthy has a plan and he's going to use this black man as like the fall guy for it. And so most of the movie is about his escape, his like getting away from Kevin McCarthy, the flashbacks to how he ended up in prison. And then we see it bit by bit. So you finally see like the ending part of like how he ended up in prison. It's like, oh, he is actually innocent. And like all of this that happened. There are I did say like it's not really a blaxploitation film, but it does have a lot of blaxploitation film elements, including a lot of hard R's. But it actually feels kind of more like a TV movie, especially with how it was shot. And it's got like the opening and ending credits. They'll flash like the actor on screen, and then I'll have their name and like them smiling, and I'm like, what is
It's
this?
like Full House or something.
Yeah, so I liked it, but if you're looking for like a true fun blaxploitation film, this isn't it. But I still would recommend watching it. It's still a good film. Then next, Free Space, I watched Any Number Can Win from 1963. This is also on Cave of Forgotten Films. This stars one of my boys, Alain Delon, and Jean Gabin. This is a heist movie. Jean Gabin has just been released from prison. His wife is like, good, are you finally going to settle down? Can you stop being a criminal? She's like, we have enough money to like retire down on the coast or whatever. But he's got one more in him that he's just got to pull one more heist. And so he pulls Delon's character in, who plays Francis. But he has perpetually bad luck. He's hot-headed. He's this young, cocky guy. And that bad luck follows him, unfortunately, into this heist. So if you've never seen a heist movie, guys, you should know crime doesn't pay. So, unless you're robbing from rich people, fuck them. I mean, he is robbing from rich people. So, like, it's, that's fine. But
he's like Rappin' Hood.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it. Heist movies, you should just watch to see how they unfold. This is beautifully shot. The tension at the end of this had my stomach in knots.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, don't read anything about it, because like even the tagline can be kind of spoiler. I mean, it's only spoilery once you have actually seen the film all the way through. But I don't know. It just feels that way. This is another one of my favorites of the month, though.
Nice.
I know Matt, MPLS Matt's a fan of this too. He loves like heist movies and, Jean Gabin and Lino Ventura. Those are all his boys. So, but yeah, I like this one a lot. Any Number Can Win, 1963.
My Free Space, I'm in 1964.
Oh.
The Leather Boys. So this was a physical media one. AGFA put this out a few years ago. An English drama directed by Canadian director Sidney J. Fury. I love this one. One of my favorites, actually, from the month as well. It's about a young couple, Dot and Reggie, who get married. Dot's only 16, and they quickly get on each other's nerves. Reggie, right away, like even like immediately when they go on their honeymoon, which is funny to watch. Reggie's a biker, the leather boys, he wears his leather jackets, and he meets another biker named Pete, who he gets along with really well. Reggie's grandpa dies, and he wants to go live with his grandmother so she's not alone in her house. But Dot, she doesn't want to go at all. She's like, no, fuck that. I do not want to stay with your grandmother. So Reggie's like, okay, well, I'm going to go stay with her. This isn't working out. We've been married for like 2 hours, but so he goes to move with his grandmother, take care of her. Pete, his friend Pete that he just met, doesn't have a place to stay. So Reggie offers up, his grandmother's place or that extra room, and they stay together in the same bed. So Pete can help with cash. It is a small place. They end up, a lot of scenes of them just taking rides on their bikes. They plan these endurance test rides for their bikes. So they're kind of away for a couple of days. They go to the coast, just kind of establishing the relationship, having like the best time. Dot sees them together. She hears about them. She blatantly says, you guys look like a bunch of queers, which gets Reggie, her husband, thinking what? He never thought that. It never crossed his mind. It's basically, I'm hanging out with a friend who I just love spending time with. So he starts kind of questioning the relationship, but immediately snaps out of it when him and Pete get together, because they're just, the two peas in a pod. They're just having a great time. So they plan another endurance test ride. Dot goes with another biker, and her and Reggie kind of meet up on the race again, and they start on like they were before they were married, getting along really well. Things kind of start working out. Then they quickly sour again when they get back. And it turns in this interesting look at these two men who they obviously love each other. They're happiest when they're together, but there's a struggle of perception from others and internally, specifically from Reggie, the straight one. And this was made in 1964, and homosexuality was illegal in England still. That wasn't legalized till 3 years after. So it's presented in such a positive way. Like, it's like, this is natural. Like it's just a really great way they presented this relationship. And it's between a straight man and a gay man. I mean, there's no, like, nobody's trying to force anything on each other, but it's an hour and 40 minutes of just these very real relationship building. The bickering, including like the reasons for the fights between a lot of the characters. And it's a weird situation where you're kind of, you always kind of take sides of characters in movies, but in this one you're like, oh, well, I can understand both sides of the story. So it's very thought provoking. Okay. The scripted dialogue really moves along. It doesn't feel like an almost 2-hour movie at all. It moves so fast. It's beautiful to look at. It's black and white, foggy winter, England, a lot of those long bike rides through the hills. But yeah, I really recommend The Leather Boys. Yes. Pick up the AGFA. I think it might be streaming somewhere, but there's good special features with the director and stuff. Then we jump to Aliens, The Beast with a Million Eyes from 1955. I had to get some sort of, Corman's is just, synonymous with Junesploitation. Yeah. He has an uncredited co-directing credit for this, but it's directed by David Kramarski, starring Paul Birch. So it opens with a voiceover of, like, space and stuff. And it's basically saying there's this alien force that feeds on fear and lives of human hatred. And this alien wants a new world. It starts taking over simple-minded animals because it can see everyone's most secret acts as, jumping into like these animals and in people. And it's known as the Beast with a Million Eyes. So it's setting up that there's no beast. The reason it has a million eyes is because
it can see everything.
Right. And all these reviews I was reading, people kept griping because there is an alien that pops up at the end and they're all, doesn't even have fucking a million eyes.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's what made me love this movie even more, because people are like not even paying attention. I mean, it's definitely slow, but it's silly. It's about a secluded ranch. There's a secluded ranch with a mother, father, and a daughter. And they keep hearing this high-pitched sounds, which other people around the area are hearing. They think they're these low-flying jets. And the daughter, Sandy, she has a dog, Duke, and he walks out on the land. He comes across this alien spacecraft transmitter thing, and the alien force controls the dog. He goes back and attacks the mother, who kills Duke, the dog. This upsets the daughter. There's the family drama now mixed in, but the force starts affecting all the animals. Crows, chickens, they're all attacking people. There's a cow that attacks and kills its owner who's trying to milk her. And then they have this kind of mute ranch hand who was kind of like Lon Chaney Jr. looking. The alien starts controlling him because, again, they go with simple-minded animals. Mm-hmm. So he's the first human that's taken over. And, it's very cheesy, very 50s. Of course, there's only one thing that can stop the alien force. It's one word. It's love.
Of course. But
it's 80 minutes. 50 sci-fi. I knew exactly what I was expecting, and it delivered. Super cheesy, silly ending. Paul Blaisdell did the special effects and the creature design. This was his first creature design, and he's pretty well known for doing a lot of the 50s sci-fi creatures. I actually have there's an artist named William Stout who did like the Rock and Roll High School cover art. Mm-hmm. And I have one of his originals of the creature, of the Beast with a Million Eyes, his drawing version of it. So I was like, man, when I bought it, like, I don't know, years and years and years ago, I was like, I need to watch this movie. So I did.
In 2023, good for you.
Yeah, it all full circle. But I read an interview after this because I was like, I've always been interested in Paul Blaisdell's effects and his monster makeup. And he later said that, so there is, like I already said, there's a reveal, there's an alien reveal at the end, and everybody's assuming this is the creature with the Beast with a Million Eyes. Right. This is the alien force. But what Paul said in an interview, he said the creature seen in the last reel was actually the slave of the beast, which had no physical being. It was a being used from another star system to pilot its ship to get to Earth. But that fact doesn't come across very well in the script. It doesn't come across at all. I'll say that right now. But he's like, I made him. He was about 18 inches high, built to the same scale as King Kong. Unfortunately, all of his scenes were shot in about 10 minutes with the wrong camera angles. It's a very low budget picture. But when he pops up, you can tell it's like a hand puppet. It's all
Aw.
And I loved it. I gave it a higher rating probably than it deserves. I think I gave it 3 stars, but I recommend it. You can't go wrong with an 80-minute 50 sci-fi.
The birds of the air, the animals of the forest, they shall be my ears and my eyes. And because I see your most secret acts, you will know me as the beast with 1,000,000 eyes. From worlds beyond comes a weird and wanton intelligence, a beast with 1,000,000 eyes.
What's your aliens pick?
I watched Aftershock 1990. This is on YouTube. It's a post-apocalyptic movie about an alien who visits Earth after World War III. She's kind of like pre-Fifth Element Lilu. So like she's absorbing information from encyclopedias, doesn't really know how to communicate kind of thing. John Saxon plays a prison guard hunting her down. Also, Chris Mitchum is in this, being emotionless, as usual. And Richard Lynch shows up in this one as well.
Dang.
Yeah, it's got a good cast, but what was this movie about? I think they want freedom or something.
Freedom!
Yeah, I don't know. Mitchum's out there like handing out copies of the Constitution or something. And I don't know, like there's some guys who escaped from the prison and they take the alien girl with them because they don't know she's an alien. She's like this pretty girl. Yeah, I forgot most of this movie already. That's how boring it is. John Saxon's in it though.
Yeah, and Richard Lynch.
Yeah. Okay, then Revenge. The Beasts from 1980. This is on YouTube. This was my double feature pick for A Monstrous Corpse about it's a Hong Kong film. It's about a father seeking revenge for his raped daughter. So you can go listen to our Monstrous Corpse episode if you want to hear me talk about this movie in that episode.
Good. Okay, my revenge. I went to Cave of Forgotten Films for this one. Split of the Spirit from 1987, written and directed by Fred Tan. So there were some difficulties with the subtitles presented. Like it was tough to follow along at times. But it's about a famous dancer who's depressed. Her lover just left her. She's just having a rough time with all the fame, and she attempts to kill herself by taking pills. And while this is happening, there's this asshole guy in Taiwan who murders his mistress because he's about to get married, and he doesn't want his wife to find out. So he hires these 2 guys to kill this woman he's been sleeping with by running her off a cliff in her car.
As you do.
That's how you plan a murder, right? So cut back to the dancer. She recovers from her suicide attempt. She agrees to continue dancing. She had this commitment to a big show in Taiwan where this girl in the car was just killed. So she flies to Taiwan, and when she arrives at the airport, the murdered girl's mother is carrying her daughter's ashes just along the sidewalk at the airport. And the dancer runs into her accidentally. There's like photographers around her and stuff. So she's like, get away from me. And she runs into this elderly woman who drops the urn. The ashes scatter. She steps in them. The dancer steps in them accidentally. She leans to pick up an urn, but it cuts her finger, blood's dripping on the ashes. So apparently this allows the soul of the murdered woman to leap into the dancer. Okay. As one would think.
Yeah.
And as her soul is now in this body, and she wants to seek revenge on the men who killed her. So the dancer's slowly possessed by this murdered girl, as she's rehearsing for her big dance recital. And when she steps on the ashes, there's this photographer in Taiwan who's following the dancer, to get some pictures of her for a news story. And his girlfriend just happens to be in a spiritualist group, so they kind of work together to figure out like, wait a minute, I think the soul's in her, And one of the guys in her group just happens to be one of the men that killed the lady in Taiwan. So it all kind of pulls together in this fun way. Great kills. The first guy she kills has a really great dummy drop, one of those that kind of bounce off the side
nice
of the building.
I love that when that happens.
Yeah. It should happen in every dummy drop.
Yeah.
There's an awesome decapitation. It gets bloody. There's like blood geysers and stuff.
Nice.
There's a darkroom scene, and I'm a sucker for scenes.
Oh, that's right. You love those.
Yeah. Developing their own film. So not really a spoiler, but once the revenge is completed, the spirit doesn't want to leave. She's like, I'm fucking here to stay. This is great. So now there's an exorcism that has to take place. And the final showdown takes place in an empty theater, which is always fun. But yeah, if I had watched this before the Ghost of Sierra de Cobra, I might have picked this as like a Ghost Revenge double feature. This one was a lot of fun, though. King of Forgotten Films, Split of the Spirit. Next is Cynthia Rothrock. And I went with The Inspector Wears Skirts from 1988. This is directed by Welson Chin-Sing-Wai. It's a Golden Harvest presentation. Sybil Hu plays Madame Wu, she's tasked to create an all-ladies squad for the police. And it's basically like this female command unit where they can do like special missions and assignments. And Cynthia Rothrock has an awesome opening scene fighting ninjas with Uzis and grenades. And then she doesn't arrive into the movie for like another hour, which, she comes to the end to assist with the training.
Yeah.
She's captain of the Interpol Action Squad, which is fine because the training sessions, that's basically the whole movie. I read some reviews where people kind of compared it to Police Academy because that is what it is. It's new cadets, it's new recruits. They kind of, get into these, they're in boot camp and they have all these shenanigans and they kind of like hooking up with the guy squad that's over there. And a lot of it, there's a huge comedy element. It's kind of an action comedy. And it's fun. I mean, the action is better. I find it more entertaining, but the humor, it's way more wholesome and less crude than like a Police Academy movie. There's a couple sexist jokes and stuff, but there is a sing and dance number at a skating rink where they're singing and dancing like just out of the blue.
All right.
And you don't expect that at all. That's a nice surprise. But in the end, the squad's included in this big mission to stop it at this jewelry robbery. It's a Jackie Chan production, so there's going to be bloopers and stunt mishaps during the end credits, so stick around for that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked all the stupid situations the characters came in. They're likable. I found out that there's 4 of these. There's 3 more. There's 3 sequels.
Yeah.
And most of the cast kind of show up. Cast and crew are kind of involved, so I want to check it out. It sounds like it is, they're each about training and less about like, police-driven cases, but I might check out some of the sequels later.
Okay.
What do you got for Cynthia Rothrock?
I watched Undefeatable from 1993. Just got this Blu-ray in from Vinegar Syndrome, but it is also available on Tubi. Rothrock plays a young woman named Christy, who is a waitress, but she also participates in underground fighting matches for money so she can pay for her sister's college. At the same time, there is a psychopath with serious mommy issues who is killing women who look like his wife who left him. And coincidentally, Christy's sister looks just like the wife. So you can imagine where this goes and where paths cross and all of that. It's decent overall, pretty kind of standard fare. It meanders a little bit. But the ending fight and kill is an all-timer. And I think a lot of people knew about this, had seen it already, because apparently the video of it went viral. I somehow missed this, back when it went viral. So when I watched the movie, I got to see the ending and I was like,
with fresh eyes,
fucking shit. That ending kill. So I miss all the internet sensations. Like John's like, you remember that one video? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't spend all this time on YouTube. I watch or my most recent search terms on YouTube are like Shark Attack 2023 because I just want to see footage of people getting killed by sharks.
Yeah,
I know that's the shit that I don't know what's trending on anything. So John's like, didn't you see this before? I'm like, no, I don't know what sensations are. Anyway, Undefeatable, it's fun. It has a great kill, great ending fight. Worth a watch. All right, 80s action. I know you've seen this one. I watched Furious from 1984.
Oh, yeah.
This is on Tubi and YouTube. It is a regional DIY kung fu movie. I think that, I don't know a better way to describe it.
Yeah,
about a guy named Simon who's seeking revenge for the death of his sister. I cannot recommend this one enough. And I also can't really say too much about it without spoiling it. I will say it would be great with a crowd.
Yeah.
especially during certain scenes that involve animals, but not in a bad way. Don't worry. So Matt Lynch on Letterboxd, he works at Scarecrow Video. He co-hosts Suspense is Killing, his podcast. Apparently has interviewed the director of this movie.
Oh, okay.
I think this is years ago, and it was tied to like Scarecrow screening the film. But it was on the Scarecrow Video podcast, which has long since fallen off of the internet. And so there's no trace of it, and I can't find it. So if anyone can find it, let me know, because I would love to listen to that. I would love to hear from this director. Like if this were a horror movie in any way, shape, or form, I would be like, we got to find, like, he's done an interview about this movie on the podcast. They released a DVD of it at some point because I guess his daughter had told him there's interest in this. We should release it. I don't know why this isn't on Blu-ray yet. Like this movie is fucking amazing.
I think he had a horror movie. Yeah, it has 10 watches. It's called The Evil Inside Me. So maybe we should check it out.
Okay. That way we can just talk about Furious the whole time?
Exactly.
If it sucks? Okay.
Yeah. There you go. No, yeah, because I watched that, and there's this call in this movie that they do, a vocal call that goes like, and that is lifted from Strange Brew, one of my favorite Canadian comedies. So I feel like the director was a huge Strange Brew fan. I'm just thinking that.
Okay.
And Susanna Haas, the Bengal singer, she has a role in it. She plays a hostess.
I saw her in the cast, and I was like, "What? This is random." Yeah,
yeah, that's a great movie.
Everyone watch Furious, 1984.
Yeah, I think in my review I was like, this should be in everybody's Letterboxd top 4, like mine included. Watch it.
Yeah, if there was 5, I could include it. The only thing this movie is missing is a child death. Okay,
80s action, my turn. The Shanghai 13 from 1984. I watched this on Tubi, directed by Chang Che, and this is his later work from his Taiwanese days, after Shaw Brothers stuff. It's the most Shaw Brothers cast, the most Shaw Brothers movie that isn't a Shaw Brothers movie, I guess I'm trying to say.
That makes sense.
It has all like the regulars. I guess I had read that this is kind of noteworthy because it's the last time all the 5 Venoms and the Crippled Avengers act and fight together in a film. So you do have all the mainstays kind of here in 1984. So these men, they're known as the 13 Rascals, and they're ordered to protect a man, Mr. Gao, who has government secrets, and he needs to get to the docks to get to Hong Kong. So it's basically just a bunch of 13 guys that pop up here and there. A lot of them die along the way to protect this man, to get him across the city. It was a little tough to follow in the very beginning, especially the first 15 minutes. But once like the fighting and the smuggling starts happening, it's real easy to follow. You don't really care. You kind of know, I'm here to watch the fights and the kick ass.
Right.
And this guy needs to get to the dock. That's all I need to know. And as soon as it hits a halfway mark, it's like nonstop fun action. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of spies. You don't know who the good and bad guys are. A lot of people switching sides, which is a lot of fun because like a fight breaks out like every 5 minutes. But it starts off with this safe crack, this guy breaking in to get these documents for Mr. Gao. And the credits music, it's very rock and roll. So at first it was very strange. It caught me off guard because I don't see a whole lot of, it sounded more like a blaxploitation, like funky beat music kind of, kind of rock driven with bass noodles and kind of jazzy drums here and there. But you don't see that in Shaw Brothers kung fu action movies.
Right.
And it works because this thing's kind of a martial arts mafia meets mafia hybrid. It's weird.
Okay.
Like just a lot of genres thrown together, a lot of classic hand-to-hand, martial art fighting, but there's also guns are pulled out. Sniper rifles are used. Some guys are wearing like the classy suits while fighting in these very 80s apartment buildings, but there's still like some like Shaw Brother-esque sets. So it's this weird kind of mismatch of stuff. Yeah, David Chang pops up. He plays like a De Niro type role, like this casino owner who orders his men to, watch out for new customers and take care of Mr. Gao when he's there. Playing this very polite kind of casino guy, but he means business. Like when he starts fighting, it's like, fuck yeah, this is what I want. A dude rips a guy's rib out literally from his, as he's fighting, just and snaps it in half. T. Long plays the last protector. He's the dock boss. Just great original faces that you see kind of popping up here and there. Some of them are only on screen and fight and maybe die in like 5 minutes, but it's great. The choreography is great. A lot of bloody deaths. One guy's a cigarette holder. You know, he's smoking a cigarette holder and he just throws it and kills a guy with it. Just great stuff. I highly recommend this. This was on, I think I said it was on Tubi. The Shanghai 13 from 1984. Now we're going to Hixploitation.
Woo.
I'd never seen this. Whiskey Mountain, 1977.
Oh, Christopher George.
Yeah, directed by Bill Griffey. Christopher George, Roberta Collins, who I think I went on a rant with her when we did Caged Heat. I love her. Charlie Daniels does the score, and he does an original song. The original song's really cool, but the score was really weird. It just didn't seem to fit it didn't fit Charlie Daniels because he seems to try and be doing like a fancy Hollywood or like just like a fancy movie score when he should just do like some grassroots shit.
Yeah.
So I thought it felt a little out of place, but it doesn't matter when Christopher George is a dirt biker and
correct.
His wife drags him out to her granddaddy's land to locate 200 Confederate muskets that he buried before he died, which are apparently worth a ton of money. And before he died, he left his map to his granddaughter. So they go to Whiskey Mountain, which is called this because there's said to be 25 barrels of whiskey buried there. They bring a couple of friends, which is like a guy and Roberta Collins, and they end up stumbling into this drug dealing situation with these kind of backwoods type characters. A lot of strange music played over these long scenes of just them riding around on dirt bikes.
Yeah.
It's filmed in North Carolina, so there are pretty landscapes and stuff, but it's fine. I mean, I think Christopher George and Roberta Collins really make this watchable.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like there was more potential for this like Hixploitation. Like it could have gone. There's no nudity. I wanted some weird nudity. I wanted some weird deaths. I wanted something kind of exploitation.
Yeah.
It takes 40 minutes before something like bad happens to them, and you realize, oh, they might be in trouble. It's just there was one scene where it's a rape scene, and they use these Polaroids. You know, somebody's taking pictures, so it's not filmed. The rape scene's not filmed, but it's this graphic of an empty Polaroid coming up and the camera sound, the click, the shutter, and it exposes a scene from the rape. And it does that for almost like 2 full minutes. And I'm like, this is taking way too long. But also what makes it work too is the final shot. There's a freeze frame that just rules. Like it pushes your rating up immediately. And if you want to hear Christopher George say, he calls his friend Turkey 5 times throughout the movie. You turkey. Why don't you suck a rose? It's silly stuff. Not a great Hixploitation movie, but a good dirt biking film.
Yeah.
Whiskey Mountain rising in the Georgia sunset. Is your glorious beauty really all it seems?
Whiskey Mountain. How could any place so beautiful be so weird? So sinister.
Move and you're dead.
So terrifying. Now, this shocking motion picture plunges you into a witch's cauldron of incredible excitement, exposing the savage reality behind the song, the legend, the mystery of Whiskey Mountain.
You know, it is a great Hixploitation movie.
Is it your pick?
That, but also Trapped, starring Henry Silva.
Yes.
If anyone has not watched it yet,
that's what I want. That's what I wanted. I wanted Henry Silva's character in this, and there's no
Go
Henry.
On, get.
Yeah,
get. Come on, get. But yeah, I really liked my pick for this category too. Daddy's Deadly Darling from 1973, aka Pigs, aka Blood Pen, aka The 13th Pig. This I swear to God, this movie must have made tons of rounds at the drive-in because it's got so many AKAs. But it's about a woman on the run who ends up at a remote farm that also has a cafe. It has a pig pen there. She stays on as a waitress for the old man who runs the cafe, but that guy is also digging up dead bodies to feed to his pigs. And then there's like the neighbor lady who's like, the busybody, and she's like, he feeds dead bodies to the pigs and then he eats the pigs. But I mean, It's kind of about that, but without, I mean, I guess this might spoil it a little bit. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. It's not what it's advertised as like a drive-in movie to be.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthropophagus watched this month as well and said, that they were really surprised at what it turned out to be. And I mentioned that I think it would pair really well with Titan, however it's pronounced, because it's more of like a relationship movie in that way. So it's a great movie. It's not a great Hicksploitation movie. It has the elements. It looks and feels like one, but the story is not really one, except for like the guy feeding dead bodies to his pigs. It starts off as that. He's like pulls this dead body out and he's like talking to the dead body and then he feeds it to the pigs. And I'm like, fuck yeah. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's on everything. It's probably on it's on YouTube. It's probably on Tubi. It's probably on all the things. But yeah, I would definitely recommend Pigs, Daddy's Deadly Darling, Blood Pen, 13th Pig, anyone under any one of those titles. All right, okay. Then Italian horror. I watched Graveyard Disturbance from 1987, directed by Lamberto Bava. I had my expectations going in and they were correct. It's late 80s. And so it's a group of teens who are traveling somewhere and they investigate something, some, supernatural, what have you. And that's exactly what this is. It's, a group of teens, young adults, they're camping somewhere and they end up in this bar and then they find out about this treasure that's in a crypt. And so they agree to stay in the crypt overnight so they can win the treasure. But of course, like when they go down in there, there's all these like weird monsters and ghouls and mazes and confusion. It's one of those like, hazy late 80s Italian horror movies that isn't very good, but it's also kind of like a little bit of a comfort blanket because you're just like, oh, okay, then we'll just half watch this movie while I'm watching it. It has some good makeup, soft recommendation. What about you for Italian horror?
So I went with a 2016 film.
Hi.
Blood on a Malias Moon.
Okay, I'll forgive you. It's Cozzi.
Yeah, it's Luigi Cozzi. I've had the Severin Blu-ray. This is another physical media one that I was able to get to. Not really horror, more fantasy, but there are kills and there's some thrilling mysteries. I guess you could put it that way.
Okay.
I'm going to try, but it's about a woman who visits his shop, his Profondo Rosso shop, and she's murdered by one of the museum mannequins, which is the killer from Blood and Black Lace.
Oh.
She comes to life, kills her. And Cozzi goes down. The museum's kind of downstairs. His shop's upstairs. And he finds her bag. And in it is a French book called The Vagabond Universe. So he goes on this wild quest to determine what happened to this mysterious woman that was in his shop. And what is this book? Because he doesn't speak French. So he has to go to all these interpreters. And it leads him to parallel universes.
Oh.
It's impossible to summarize, but it's like Cozzi is an Indiana Jones character. He's kind of globetrotting around to find this hidden artifact that will reveal the true nature of the universe and of the history and creation of cinema.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Okay.
He ends up getting into a rocket ship. And he sees Stella Starr, Carolyn Monroe, from his star crash. He crashes the rocket into the Eiffel Tower. He wears sequin fedoras throughout the movie. He has this little red bow tie. He's very adorable.
Okay. very
fun to watch, which is good because it's him. It's just him in his movie. Like, it feels very Giulio Questi in his shorts that I love so much. Not in physical wearing shorts, but in the short films. Yeah, my Letterboxd review, I said Alvaro Passeri meets Giulio Questi in all the best and worst ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I said, it's 2 hours long, by the way.
Oh, can't see.
But I said, you did in 120 minutes what Marvel have been trying in thousands, which is create the ultimate multiverse.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't understand his talent, but it's there. No one understands his talent now. There's another movie of his. It's like a 90-minute short, or not 90 minutes, not short, but a 90-minute film of, I think it's him about something about like the Wizard of Oz. He's trying to teach children like the history of cinema.
Mm.
And that's also on the Severin disc that I need to watch.
Okay.
But I do recommend this one. It is long, but I was thoroughly entertained, and it helps because Kotze is silly on screen. Okay. Like, there are just inserted clips of him fucking with his wife, and that's it. Like, it basically, it's just there to, I don't know, show off his wife, show off how funny he can be.
All right.
But it's fun.
Okay. I mean, I have this on my shelf and I haven't got to it yet. So, and I need to get to all my physical media. My problem is I get like stuck on YouTube watching people getting eaten by sharks, and I need to stop.
Yeah, no, it's worth it because I bought it when it came out, so it's been sitting for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
okay,
I'm going to do it. Again, not really that much horror, but whatever. Okay, next we are to what do we got? Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
I selected another fairly recent movie from the 2000s, 2005. I didn't go old school.
Oh, wow.
Sammo. SPL Killzone, directed by Wilson Yip, starring Donnie Yen, Simon Yan, and Sammo. And so Simon Yen, he plays a cop who's been trying to nail Sammo Hung's character for a while. And he's like this huge mobster type boss. His weapon of choice, I think I said Fred Williamson had a bag of snakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
From this one, he loves to kill guys and beat up guys with a golf club.
Okay.
That's kind of his weapon of choice. But anyway, there's this key witness who's going to be brought in to finally nail him, to lay all the evidence out in court. And Sammo has his men kill him in a car wreck. And this also kills the man's wife who's with him, but not their 5-year-old daughter, sadly.
Yeah.
So the main cop, Simon Yen, he takes the daughter in, he takes care of her, he becomes her father, and he still is like, and so Sammo Hung's released. He really wants to nail Sammo Hung, but he finds out the cop finds out he has a brain tumor that's inoperable. So he retires to spend time with the daughter, or he puts in his resignation, I should say. And Donnie Yen is brought in to take over the team that's been, that he's been leading to catch this big mobster, Sammo Hung. And the team is very corrupt. They're just a bunch of corrupt cops. They'll do anything to catch this mobster. And Donnie Yen is kind of like this new straight-laced cop. So he's like learning the ways, but at the same time saying, you can't do that. And anyway, Yen has one more night before he retires, and they find an opening to kind of go full force on Sammo Hung. So he's like, I'm not retired yet. Let's do this. So they all kind of team up together and to get Sammo finally. A lot of great fights. There is a dead infant in this.
Does it die in the movie?
Well, there's a man that falls off. He's in a car and it falls off kind of like a bridge, and it crushes the mother and baby in the car, kills him.
That counts.
So child kill. SPL Killzone. The music's really weird, though. It feels like it's a made for TV. It makes it made for TV sounding, kind of like what you pointed out. Very Law and Order type series.
Okay.
A ton of slow motion shots, which is fun because you love to see a big Sammo Hung just flipping through the air for a full minute. It's
sure.
The ending had my jaw on the floor. It is a great fucking ending. Great death scene. Very cheesy, kind of what you expect from a 2005 kind of action film. I was really high when I watched it. And I kept thinking that Donnie Yen looks like Seth MacFarlane to me. So every time he's on screen, I think it's the hairline or something.
Could be.
But, he has that bang cut that shoots up. They both look like they have a ton of makeup on all the time. I don't know. They look a lot alike to me.
Okay.
Again, though, I was in a normal state of mind.
Okay.
What about your pick?
Sammo Hung, I watched The Iron-Fisted Monk from 1977. This is on a Eureka 3-disc Blu-ray, but it's also, I think someone else posted theirs that they had like the DVD of it. Early Sammo Hung, 1977. Pretty standard. It feels more like a Shaw Brothers movie for most of it, minus the humor that's characteristic of Sammo Hung. Yeah. It has a great final fight, but, not too much of interest leading up to it. It has a pretty nasty rape scene toward the beginning. followed immediately by a little bit of slapstick humor.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, it's not my favorite Sammo Hung, but I mean, I love watching him in anything. He's one of those people who, like, he has such, like, a fun presence on screen that, like, it makes up for it if the plot's a little lacking. So
yeah, for sure.
But it was fun. I'd recommend it. I'd definitely recommend picking up that Eureka disc too, because it's also got Eastern Condors and I forgot the other one that's on it. Anyway, it's a good pickup. So then we moved to 80s comedy. I think you and I might have the same pick. I watched Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hype.
Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype.
That's right. I already forgot the name of the movie.
Yeah, if everybody wants to hear us talk about Oliver Reed for an hour, listen to the episode.
Yeah. And we talk about the movie a little bit.
We do.
But mostly Oliver Reed. So, yeah, Dr. Heckle, Mr. Hype, 1980. It's on YouTube.
Recommend it.
Listen to our episode. You don't have to watch the movie. You can just listen to our episode.
Yeah, so that was my 80s comedy pick as well.
Okay.
Then we're going on to Free Space.
Yes.
Now we're down to 2 more Free Space and sequels. Here we go. My last Free Space pick was 1981, A Trapados. Trapped.
Okay. Yeah.
This is directed by Matthew Patrick, who's the director of Hider in the House with Gary
Busey. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
So I watched this in early June because it was a potential episode pick. I had it on my watch list and I was like, oh, well, you know, it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably think it sucks because I picked Heckle and Hype over it. But it's very experimental. This is a student film by him. It's his first, Matthew Patrick's first film. Very experimental. It's definitely not for everybody, but it's about a young married woman named Alba, and she lets this handyman named Carlos into her apartment to fix some plumbing. And while they're in there, there's what's believed to be an earthquake. You know, everything just collapses in the building. They're stuck. They're trapped. But what makes it really interesting is just in the back of your mind the whole time you're watching it is that you don't really know what happened. It could be an earthquake. It could be a bomb. Could be maybe some alien invasion, just because how weird the mood and tone is. Mm-hmm. Because before she goes to her apartment to let the handyman in, there's scenes of her walking outside the city, and it's just rubble. People are just walking over bricks. Like, you don't know what's happened in this environment. There's no explanation at all. Her husband, I think, works for like the government. So it's just these weird little things that are thrown out there. But you're watching these 2 strangers try to live together. And that's pretty much the whole movie. They're stuck in this confined spot. They fight. They have deep conversations. They become lovers. They have a baby. Spoiler alert. The baby dies. It doesn't really, I think it's born dead.
That doesn't count. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is this scene where you don't really know. Again, it's mainly told through flashback scenes of them, and their relationship and them telling stories to each other and her dreaming. Cause she's like a mystic too. Like that's her whole deal. But they do show a scene of just the baby, the infant, and it's just covered in worms. Like it's very interesting.
I mean, circle of life. Put that baby in the ground.
They eat it. No, they don't.
Oh.
But yeah, it's chaotic in its storytelling. It's breaking up like the linear situation with flashbacks. It was filmed over a few years. So the lead character, the man who played Carlos, he actually lost 80 pounds to film the ending scenes, like where they're starving and stuff. And you wouldn't know it. I would have watched it and said, these are 2 different actors. Like physically, he just doesn't look the same, which is very impressive. But at the same time, it's like, this is a student film. Like this guy must have, damn.
Yeah.
I mainly didn't pick it because it's not very horror.
Okay.
It's very just kind of dramatic. Just as like this drama. The baby scene's very gnarly. And the mood can kind of be a little bit horrific, but
sure,
it's not straight horror. So I thought, okay, Heckle and Hype it is.
Okay.
But it did have a cool score. Daniel Licht composed it. Again, this is one of his first movies. He went on to compose Hellraiser, Bloodline, Children of the Corn 2 and 3.
Oh,
yeah. This guy, he went on to a good career, and it was very like computerized, like sounding soundtrack. It was cool.
Nice.
I loved the whole idea of this trap movie. I respect the presentation given the student budget, but overall it's pretty chaotic. I couldn't rate it. It's one of those movies.
Okay.
Good stuff. I do recommend watching it.
All right.
I think it was on YouTube.
So my last free space, I watched Who Killed Mary What's Her Name from 1971. This is on Cave of Forgotten Films. Alternate title is Death of a Hooker. So clearly someone was marketing this as an exploitation film.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, this would have worked a lot better if that's what it actually was. It's about this man who reads about the murder of a sex worker, and after hearing everyone, and he knew who she was, and after hearing everyone say, like, well, who cares if she's dead? It's just another sex worker. He decides that he needs to find out who killed Mary. But the main guy is played by Red Buttons, who is just like this little like smiley guy going around like investigating. And it's like, if it was cast with somebody else in it, because it has like, it's set in New York. It's got like, all, it's got all these like grimy settings and like old beat up apartment. Like it has the setting to be like a good exploitation film where it's like, oh, kind of fish out of water guy going into like the seedy underbelly of New York. Like, I mean, in a way, like I love Red Buttons. Every time he shows up on screen, he makes me smile.
Mm-hmm.
But having him in this, and I'm like, it's trying for the fish out of water thing almost, but it's not working.
Right.
So it's a little disappointing. Sam Waterston shows up in this as a photographer, Law and Order.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's got scruffy dark brown hair and unrecognizable. I'm so used to seeing him with gray hair, or in The Great Gatsby, I guess, too. But he's got this scene in it where he's like complaining. They're in a movie theater and he's complaining about the film being out of focus, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, he teams up with Red Button's character to help him find the killer. And the film itself is okay. Like I said, it should have been like if this had like a better layer of scuzz to it and somebody else in it, I would think I really would have liked it. But
can I theorize? Can I guess how it ends?
Sure.
They're like, wait, what? So what's Mary's name? And he looks in the camera and says, Mary Skywalker.
Nice try.
No good?
No.
Do you find out her name? Mary, what's her name?
Well, no, everyone knows who she is, but like he knows.
Okay. It's not, they don't, but she has a last name.
Correct. Yeah. Like it's more like people's indifference to a dead sex worker.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, Mary, what's her name? That kind of writing off. Oh my God, Lance.
Mary Skywalker, guys. You guys get it? Rey. Rise of Skywalker. So good. No. Okay, sequels.
Okay, wait. Is it?
It's you.
Oh, it's me. Okay, and then you. Okay, sorry. So yeah, sequels. Of course, I have to end my month with my man John Saxon.
Hell yeah! How many John Saxons did you get in?
9 John Saxon movies.
Very
out
impressive.
Of 30, which it's not. I was going for a 10, but like I just couldn't find anything else that fit that I haven't seen yet.
You got Zombie Death House, and that's all that matters.
I mean, does it?
Yes.
We'll debate that potentially in a later episode. Okay, so sequels. Frame Up 2, The Cover-Up from 1994. This was on YouTube. John Saxon plays a bank president who arranges for the killing of an employee, an accountant specifically. The accountant has found out about some shady dealings, and they involve Saxon, so he's got to get rid of them. Wings Hauser is in this. He's investigating the murder. He's the cop. But he's also balancing raising a 12-year-old girl and dating a coworker. So there's some weird tonal shifts with this like family drama side plot that really, I don't care for that part of the movie. Margot Hemingway is in this. She plays Saxon's wife, and her character, let me back that up, is addicted to drugs. So he keeps her upstairs. And so she actually saw Saxon colluding with the killers before the murder at the house. It's, it plays out exactly how you think it is. Saxon's a bad guy. We've got the wife who's seen it but is being kept up there, and Wings investigating and all of that. It plays out. It's very standard, action movie like this. My biggest issue, I don't know if it's an issue with it, but I felt kind of icky watching it because Margot Hemingway looks fucking rough in this movie. This is 1994, so I'm assuming it was either shot that year or 1993. And it's kind of sad to watch her in a role like this, knowing that she had an actual drug problem going on at this time. And she died of that drug problem not too long after this movie. So
Yeah, 96.
Yeah, it feels a little icky. So other than that, the movie has these terrible squibs in it. You can hear them popping on the bodies. I mean, Wings has a few moments. Saxon, bad guy is my turn on, but it's the movie itself is pretty standard, but yeah, the whole Margot Hemingway thing just made me feel kind of gross.
Yeah, I could see that.
So yeah, bring it home, Lance.
Bring it home. My sequels pick. So I loved Class of 1999.
As well you should.
I loved it. I think it's, in my opinion, personally, for me, it's much better than Class of 1984. I know.
Ouch.
But I had to close it all out, bring it home with Class of 1999 2, The Substitute from 1994.
I can't believe there's a sequel.
Oh, there is. And you're going to hear about it. Directed by Spiro Rosados. Class of 1999. It's assumed that all the droids are killed. These droid teachers, these military created droids that were created by Dr. Forrest, the awesome Stacy Keach.
Yes.
Sadly, he's not in the sequel. Well, you know why. But they're all believed to be destroyed, but this isn't the case. One of the droids is still out there, and he kills a new substitute. I think they're in Oregon or something. And he takes on his name to act as the substitute. But there is a detective who's out there searching for this droid. He knows he's out there. He's going to find it, and you assume it's to end it all. Finally destroy all these droids. As he's taking notes in his car while he's following and trying to figure out what this droid is, that's when you get tons of flashbacks to Class of 1999, which doesn't bother me at all. And when the principal finds out that this sub is kind of beating up kids, and he has an incomplete file, the droid kills the principal. Then he starts killing a bunch of kids, what you expect. What's weird is the droid is kind of developing these human elements and emotions. Mm-hmm. He has PTSD because he fought in combat as a military.
Okay.
There's this full-time teacher that works there. She's being harassed by students because she saw one of them murder a student, and she's going to testify in court in this trial. And the droid starts kind of protecting her and falling for her. He gets jealous when she sleeps with Nick Cassavetes.
Okay.
It's weird. And they don't really hit on that, why he's developing these jealous antics. It's just there.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's kind of weirdly falling for him. But anyways, it's entertaining. I mean, so the director, I've learned, Spiros, he's a stuntman. He does a lot of stunt work.
Okay.
So there are these awesome these gags that are just how the fuck do they do that? A kid is on the roof of the school and he goes out to this flagpole that's sticking out, and he falls and the flag wraps around his neck and he hangs there. And the way it's shot, it's amazing. Major kudos to a lot of the stunt work. The finale is amazing. It's a paintball battle between the kids that this Nick Cassavetes guy, this teacher guy, is kind of putting together for the kids. And the paintballs are filled with gasoline. But yeah, and while they have this final paintball battle, the droid, the last kind of battle droid, is hunting the students very Rambo style. He's set up the whole kind of paintball field with these booby traps. And then at the end, there's this great twist that you don't really see coming. But now you do, because I told you. But it almost sets up for another sequel. Very dated stuff, but I love this kind of shit. The 90s music's off the charts. They talk about Bill Clinton being indicted a couple of times.
Oh.
And his education program is mentioned. But yeah, that trailer you put in for the Junesploitation, where he's walking away and the car explodes behind him and he says class dismissed.
Yeah.
There are 3 of those. He does that 3 times where he blows up students in some manner, and he always has some witty one-liner now go back to class, just
That's
funny
fun.
shit.
Okay.
I do recommend it. I think I gave it 3 stars. It's on Tubi, Class of 1999.
Okay. Would you be able to pick one favorite?
One?
Yeah. Maybe 2. Let's be fair, because we asked in our Discord 1 or 2.
Yeah. Well, if I go by my ratings on Letterboxd, I think I have like 2 4.5 ratings, and that's the Titan, the Titan one, which is just phenomenal. What was the other one? The other one was I think it's the Yakuza one, the Homansu. Those two are probably my favorites.
Okay.
I loved Outrageous too, though. But yeah,
Outrageous sounds great. I definitely put that one on my watch list.
What about you? What would be your tops?
Furious.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, how can you not? And then the Alain Delon one, Any Number Can Win, would be probably my two favorite, like, hard recommends. I've got a bunch of like 3.5 and other 4-star movies like Watch Out We're Mad, but I think like if someone like pulled my arm and was like, give me 2, then I'd give them those 2 for sure.
Yeah, but I had a good month. Most of my stuff are like 3 and up.
Yeah, I didn't have any like actual. I mean, I have a few like 2-star movies, but that was just because like I think the one I was trying to describe and I forgot it while I was trying to describe it. I'm like, okay, that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, if we counting Jekyll and Hype, we all know how I feel about that. Actually, you only know about that if you've listened to the episode. So yeah, but overall, yeah, I think it was a good one. I didn't have like. I remember there was one year where I had so many that I had so many bangers, and I was like, "This is great." And so I think I'm gonna. Yeah, it was a good year.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it was a good year.
Yeah. All right. Happy Junesploitation, Lance.
Woo! Same to you, Erica. That was a great time. Great 30 days.
Yes. Folks, if you are not already, you can follow this podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We'll put links to both of our letterbox list with our Junesploitation movies in show notes so that you don't have to, write any of these down. I should have said that at the beginning of the episode, but 2.5 hours in, you had to listen for that. Or you check show notes.
And if you made a list, take a picture of it and send it to us.
Yeah,
because that'd be cool. I want to see what pics.
I'm on Instagram, Letterboxd, and Twitter at Hex Massacre.
I'm on Instagram and Letterboxd at L Shivey.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you back next episode. Bye.
Bye.
listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.